The following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and it appears we may have a problem of some magnitude.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And this week, we are back to covering movies that Steve has seen before, usually, multiple times. And I have seen a total of 0 times. And the movie this time around that we've decided to cover is 2007's Frank Darabont, Stephen King, The Mist. And yeah, so here we are, chatting about The Mist. So typically, whenever we discuss whether it's TVs, movies, whatever, we'll have our individual points that we want to discuss about what we watched. But before we do that, we usually do just a quick rapid fire what we thought about what we just saw. And then we'll get into more nitty-gritty details. So I went first in our last episode. So, Steve, it is your turn to go first. What are your thoughts on The Mist? And I know when we've talked about movies that you've selected before, you've also done a little bit of background, too. So if you want to take the time to talk through, like, when you first watched it, how you came to the movie, and what you think of it, that'd be great. So go for it.
All right. Well, this was a movie I wanted to cover for a while. I thought for sure, though, you would have seen it just because it's a Stephen King property, and that's very near and dear to you, obviously. And so when you said, "Oh, I've never seen it," I was just like, "Ooh, really? This will be interesting." I adore this movie. I think this movie warms my cold dead heart like very few others. It has everything in it that I love about horror. Obviously you have the Stephen King angle. You have the Lovecraftian creatures that come out of the mist, which I love. This movie, which I think Darabont, this is kind of, obviously he'd done a lot of stuff, but this was sort of the last project he did before he jumped into The Walking Dead. And you can tell, there are a lot of actors that show up in The Walking Dead that are in this. There's a lot of people in the production side of things that ended up working on The Walking Dead for a long time, and so this is sort of like the training grounds. This is sort of like the him getting ready and sort of collecting, who he's going to take with him when he does this big show, and I love that. I love the happy, hopeful future, the everything is bright ending of this movie. There's so many great things about it that I really like, and I can vividly remember in 2007 going to see this movie, and then when it was done, the group of friends, we went out to some kind of greasy spoon, whether it was an IHOP or a Denny's or something that was open late, and we ended up like talking about this movie for a good hour, 2 hours easy, about what we thought of it, and so on, and that doesn't happen all the time, when you go to see movies. A lot of movies you see and you go, "Oh, okay," and then that's it, and you're just kind of done with it. And
Right.
this there were a lot of thoughts about this movie, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, and that back in '07 and into '08, this movie, hugely controversial. A lot of people did not like this movie, mostly because of the ending, mostly. That it just turned people off, the way that how harsh and how much of a downer the ending of this movie is. But I loved it. I thought it was great. And like you said, it's based on a novella that Stephen King had written, and I know it was published in like the late 70s or the early 80s, but I remember it in the Skeleton Crew collection. In that,
Okay.
if you remember that book, that
Hmm.
paperback book, and that came out, I want to say in like the mid 1980s. Doesn't that ring true to you?
That sounds about right yeah,
And
about right, yeah.
yeah, and I remember reading the story and thinking at the time, because I was just getting into Lovecraft and a lot of the stories that he had written, that I thought, wow, this is very Lovecraftian inspired. I also thought it back in the 1980s when I read it, that there's no way they could ever make a movie of it. And I'm just like, yeah, that's never gonna work. And then, sure enough, I mean, it only took 22 years, but eventually they did. And I think the effects work to a point. There's some CGI in this where I kind of cringe a little, where I'm like, yeah, that didn't work too good. It didn't age very well, but
Yeah.
still, I really like, a lot of the stuff that Darabont did. And I think they did a good job of adapting the story. Pretty much all of the beats of the novella are pulled into this, and the big difference is the ending. The story that Stephen King wrote ends much more ambiguous than this ending is, and we can get into that when we get to the the end of our
Hmm.
points, because I'm just gonna bet right now. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that one of us mentioned the ending as one of our things that we want to talk about. So
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, I
Yes.
adore this movie. I think it's like almost all the things that I look for in a really good horror story, in a horror movie. And amazing cast, amazing director, amazing production values, and the story is scary and creepy and weird and keeps you guessing. And yeah, I absolutely adore it. But as much as I love talking about how much I love this movie, I am just super curious to get your take on it for a first timer, because, like I said,
Mm.
that ending, if people were like, really? And so, I really want to know. So please tell me, share with everyone, what was your first timer reaction?
Hated it. No, I'm kidding. No, joke. I joke. We were talking about this at length before we started recording, and then I was like, let's stop talking because we should be doing this while we're recording. Um, and I liked this movie a lot. I think the things, and we'll get into it when we get to our points. The thing that was interesting to me was there were some things in the story, because I Skeleton Crew is one of the few Stephen King like collected work things that I never read. So I never, it's one of the few, and I grew up like, we were Stephen King household. My mom belonged to the library, which like every 8 weeks to, 8 to 16 weeks, you'd get a brand new book. I've read so many Stephen King things. Probably I was younger than I should have been when I started reading a lot of those books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, should you be 10 in reading, Carrie? I don't know. But
I
that's
don't
neither
think it
here nor there.
affected you at all.
No, I'm so normal. Um, I would say, knowing what I know about Stephen King, his style, uh, so much of the story feels like his style. It feels like, you know what I mean? He's more and there are definitely moments where there is blood drawn, and we were talking about this beforehand, and Steve seemed surprised by my take on this, but I feel like as a horror movie, and it definitely is a horror movie, don't get me wrong, there was less blood than I was expecting from a horror movie, but it is about the right amount of blood I would expect from Stephen King. Does that make sense? And he's much better at doing a scary movie, a horror movie that has things that make you go, ugh. And that is what I did most of this movie, when it was like, first of all, it's unsettling. The mist itself is unsettling. The circumstances are unsettling. The fact that they're all, stuck in the supermarket together, everything about that is unsettling. Then to not really be able to see what you're up against and all of that, like that's all unsettling. But then on top of it, the fact that you know, it's more creepy crawlies than it is like, it's not like some, and it really was. It was one big monster, that's for sure. But the big huge behemoth didn't really attack them. It was something they saw from the distance. What attacked them was these small, like the flies, the bugs that were auditioning for next season of Fallout. The big stingers and whatever, like the spiders that were in the pharmacy and stuff, like creepy crawlies and like things that you would have nightmares about. I don't have nightmares about someone attacking me with an axe. I have nightmares about scratching some part of my skin and like like spiders come crawling out. Like that's, or my skin peeling off. Poltergeist. So like, so to me, like that feels so Stephen King, is just like I saw an interview with him years ago where he said he's less interested in scaring you by like having someone, either kill you with an axe or whatever. He's like, I want instead for someone to be reading my book and then all of a sudden something pops out and goes, whoa. He's like, that's much more exciting to me. And I always remember that. So I think of that as his more genre of, like I said, there's blood, there's death, there's pain, there's horror in this, but it feels like all of the elements that make a good I guess you want to call it like the trope where people are sort of stuck someplace and have to find a way out. You know what I mean? Night of the Living Dead, they're stuck inside the house and they don't know a lot about what's attacking them, and they have to hunker down and work together as a team. Like that kind of genre, it worked really well here. The fact that there's these big windows and you can sort of see what's coming is so like unsettling. That's like that they spend the whole movie with being able to see as stuff comes to them if they really wanted to. It's so weird. I liked it a lot. I was not prepared for the ending. It was and we'll like you said, we'll talk more about details of the ending when we get to like our finer points, but overall it's a really, really good movie. I can totally see why you really like it too. It is very your style when you said the stuff about the Lovecraftian stuff. It's a really good movie. Love Darabont, love all the actors, lots of people that I sort of knew were going to be there, a couple of surprises too, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, overall, really, really good movie, and I can't wait to talk about it.
All right. Well, good. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, guys. So let's chat then more about our individual points. Before we get there, let's talk a little bit episode description, and we'll talk a little bit about the writer and the director, and then we'll get into our main points about this movie. So Steve, why don't you chat about those, and then we'll get going.
All right, cool. Well, again, this is the 2007 Frank Darabont production, The Mist. And our description that we got from the interwebs is as follows. After a massive thunderstorm, an eerie, unwavering fog, almost a mist, you could say, descends upon a Maine community. Locals seek refuge in a grocery store from the monstrous creatures now roaming the countryside, killing everyone, and I mean everyone, they encounter. And that is your description. So there you go. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty close, pretty good. I think it's a pretty accurate there. It kind of spares us any sort of details of what they're doing, but I think it's enough to give you, a good thumbnail of what you'd be getting, right? So our writers and our director, well, like we said, this is a Frank Darabont joint, and he also wrote the screenplay, but it's based on, I don't know, some some New England hack named Stefan King. Whatever. It is like we said. Stephen King wrote this as one of his novellas. He wrote it in the late '70s, and it was published at least twice in his collections. And the one like I said, I remember is from the Skeleton Crew collection of short stories. And Darabont took that and then obviously had to pad it out a little bit to make it feature film length, and he basically did a really good job of pulling over the major beats from the story. The characters, again, I think he definitely added a few more characters for the movie, but all of the big ones that we see here are in the movie. So David Drayton, Ollie Weeks, Mrs. Carmody, the Private Jessup, and all of those folks. Norm, the bag boy, poor Norm, who gets tentacled, right? So he did a really good job of pulling all that over and then just kind of expanded on it. And like we said earlier, the big thing that he decided to deviate from, the moment he decided to from, is the ending, and that the ending that Stephen King wrote is much more not nearly as depressing. Let's just put it that way. It's certainly not a happy ending, but it's not how this movie ends. So, but that is your writers and your director.
Fantastic. So my first point and your second, both our first points really kind of involve like one of the first main moments. Obviously, the setup of the movie is that there is a big storm the night before the main events of the movie. So there's a big storm that comes in. This is some type of coastal town in Maine. How Stephen King of him. And there is damage, and Thomas Jane's character, who is David, he needs to go into town to get some supplies to fix there was a tree that went through their picture window, and he's going to get some supplies to fix that up. He ends up bringing his neighbor, Brent, who there is some old bad blood over some sort of property issue. And they seem to have put that behind them in order to be able to sort of move forward. So it was really interesting that there was this moment where they come together because there's a tree that falls on their boathouse. Apparently there must have been discussion in the past about removing the tree or else it is going to fall, and it fell. So they're about to have the discussion.
I think it was dead. I think that's what David says, and he'd been telling Brent for several years you should really get rid of it because it could, and of course fall. He didn't, and then the storm hits, and and let's be honest, it smushes their boathouse.
Oh God, yeah.
So
it is irretrievable.
Yeah.
And Brent admits that he lost some property in the storm as well. He's got this really nice old school Mercedes. What's the word I'm looking for? Convertible. Thank you. I was like drop top.
Drop top.
And
wow.
Something like that. And he and the tree fell on it. And so he's got no way to get into town. So they have like a sort of temporary peace where he's like, hey man, can I come with you? So that's how they end up getting into town, because the events of the whole movie take place inside this food store. Sort of like a small town's version of like a mini, I don't want to say Walmart, but something like that, because it's got a little bit of everything, and it's got all your groceries, but you could get like a flashlight in aisle 10 or whatever.
Sure. It has an Costco for local people.
Yes, absolutely. So they decide they're going to do this thing and go get their supplies, and they go together, and as they're driving down the road to get into town, there's some army people who are going
Mm-hmm.
in the opposite direction.
Pretty quickly.
Yes, they seem to be in a hurry, as it were. And I put my first instinct, first of all, that's not a good sign. Without knowing any other part of the story, any other thing about this tale, my first reaction was, should the military be driving away in the opposite direction? And, quickly as they were?
You just wonder, what do they know?
Exactly. And they're sort of like, jibber jabber inside the car about, this, that, and the other. And this one thing gets brought up, which is your number one as well. So it's all relating into this first vision of the local army place. So let's talk about your number one as well.
Yeah. Although we definitely will, but I gotta say I am definitely a little surprised that you didn't mention at all the opening scene. We find out that our lead character, played by Thomas Jane, David Drayton, he is an artist who draws like movie posters for Hollywood.
Oh yeah. There's a great The Thing one in the background.
There's a Thing poster, but like the poster he's working on is from the Stephen King series, The Dark Tower. And if you look at the stuff that's on the walls, there's like 3 other Stephen King stories. Like I want to say Shawshank Redemption is there, and maybe The Green Mile or something else. So like his whole studio is filled with these nods to Stephen King, and then of course you've got the Drew Struzan Thing poster. And Drew Struzan is a guy that had illustrated like hundreds of movie posters in that era, like the 70s through like the 90s. And that kind of iconic picture of the guy with the parka and the lights coming out of the hood area from The Thing, that is very prominently on the wall. And it's interesting that I thought for sure you would have mentioned it, because like that Dark Tower thing he's drawing it's so obvious that it's a little nod to King.
I had the note down, and then just for the,
just because I know we're trying to limit it.
I was like, yeah, it's trying to limit it. I meant to throw it in my honorable mentions and just honestly forgot. But yes, it's literally like your first image.
Yes,
like when you first see he's working on his one painting, and that's up on the wall, and it's just such a, everyone who knows that image from The Thing it's such a striking image.
Yeah. So. Anyway, so and of course that gives us a little insight into David Drayton's character, that he is an artist. He's clearly, making some money, and he's got this big house. He's got a very attractive young wife, and he's got, what would you say his boy Billy is, like 6, 8, something like that, 9?
Yeah, that like 6 to 8 range, sure. So
a little kid, and like you said, the storm hits. The other thing is the power goes out. And so they suddenly, and this is 2007, so 2000, they're setting it in current time, so the internet is around, but not like it is today, and cell phones were around, but not like they are today. So everyone has kind of like a flip phone in this movie. So you're kind of like, oh, okay. But even then, there's no cell reception, so they literally are just cut off. And so then they kind of survey the damage, like you said, and eventually they get in his Land Cruiser. He and his son, his wife is going to stay at the house. Big mistake. And they're going to drive into town because they need to get like food, because all of the food in their refrigerator is going to go bad because they don't have any power, Yeah. And so again, they, like you said, they kind of make peace with Brent, who's the next door neighbor, played by the amazing Andre Braugher. Oh my God, he is so good.
Yes.
And you're right. Like, you get the feeling right away they don't like each other. There was some kind of previous lawsuit that they fought in court about their property, and like he said, they kind of put it aside, and he comes over because he's like, hey, we should like exchange insurance. That's all. I'm not here to pick a fight. I just didn't think we should do that. And then Brent eventually goes, hey, are you going into town? Because I could use a ride. And so he takes him. So they go. And then they pass the military. And, of course, when they see the military guys going by, Brent, who is he's a guy from New York. He's not someone who like grew up in the town or someone who's lived there. He's sort of like he's a judge in New York City, and he
Mm-hmm.
bought this like summer home kind of a thing, and it's on this lake, and it's beautiful, and it's obviously super expensive, again, a wealthy dude. And he asks David about there's apparently an army base up in the mountains, and the thing that he brings up is what they refer to as the Arrowhead Project.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and he's like, so what is it? And David Drayton, who we find out is kind of like the local guy who did good. And so he grew up in this area. Like the house that he lives in was like his grandparents' house, and like the tree, ironically, that comes in through the picture window and destroys all of his artwork that he's working on was planted by his grandfather, like 70, 80 years ago on this property. So he clearly is a guy that's been coming up here, lives up here, grew up here, knows the area way more than Brent does. And he's like, you got me, what's going on up there? And he kind of talks about the rumors about like the crashed spaceships and
Mm-hmm.
frozen alien bodies, and he says like the most common thing people talk about is missile defense research, and so it's sort of like nobody really knows what they're doing up there, but all the rumors have kind of matriculated down into the town of it could be anything, could be crazy stuff, could be science fictiony stuff, right? Which in this
Right.
movie you're like, well, that ain't good.
And it's great too because it's one of those and I hate to use the word trope because they don't lean on it. So it's not something that feels like they trotted it out or anything like that. Like it can in some other movies, but it's definitely something you've seen before where it's like, ooh, mysterious, army base and blah blah blah. It really is sort of like a passing conversation. It's got a little bit of meat to it, but they don't really dig too much into it, and it's left aside until like it's not brought up again for like ages. So it's really done effectively, and I like that it's got that, it, like you said, neither one of them seems to know anything about it, you know and one of them is a local and would probably have his finger to the pulse a little bit more,
Hmm.
and they just really don't know. It is super mysterious, and there's just no information about what it is, if it's anything at all. We don't know.
Yeah,
Super
yeah,
cool.
and it's like, could it be a MacGuffin? Could it be, the key to this whole crazy mess? We don't really know. But you're right, and I think one of the things I really love about the way Darabont attacks this story is that he just like for like the first, I don't know, like 30, 35 minutes, he's like building up the tension like piece by piece, the way I kind of look at it. And
Yes.
it starts with the power goes out, right? Which we've
Yep.
all been there. It sucks. It's unsettling because your whole world, because we're so dependent on it, it's suddenly you're like, oh, what do I do? What do I? Because everything that we want to do usually requires the lights to work. The power has to work. The TV is not working, people. It's like, and so that's the first thing. And then when they're in the car driving into town, there's an offhand comment about how the local radio station is off the air. And so, like, wow, this is a big power outage because apparently they're out of power. The local station is out of power. And then I think Brent says that, like, Portland, like the Portland station is still broadcasting. We don't hear it, but at least we get the idea he's tuning the radio a little and getting it. And then right after that, this massive military convoy of trucks and Hummers comes. And let's be honest, they are not like at parade speed. They're going like 65, 70 miles an hour
Yeah, they got
in.
someplace to be.
Yes, and they're all in, like the trucks, all of them are full of, uniformed, like armed troops, and they're just booking the other way, right? Which, like you said, it's like, should they be like not driving away from here? It's like what's but again, it's unsettling. It's like, wait, what that's not how it should be. And I love how it just continues on from that moment, in that everything that happens, leading up to like the first, like up to when Jeffrey DeMunn, which his character in this, by the way, in The Walking Dead, we know him as Dale. In The
Yeah.
Mist, he's Dan. So pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job there with the names.
Yeah, good
You
job.
couldn't
Good
call
job.
him Bob to give him some sort of separation.
Yeah, yeah. But no, but when right up to the point when he comes like sprinting, and he's got the blood dripping out of his
Oh,
nose and stuff, that's kind of where like the ratcheting up of the tension and dread kind of ends, and we're just, all right, it's on, let's go. Now the horror will commence. But leading up
right.
to it, and this kind of goes into both of our second points,
Yes.
which again, it's a great, I love it because it's creepy, and it's like it just like makes you go, uh-oh, bad's gonna happen. And so why don't we go into
Yeah.
your point?
So we both brought up the next thing that really sort of ratchets everything up is the siren.
Yes.
The disaster siren. And it is, we've heard it in so many different, we live in the Midwest. Like, I have heard this siren.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, not to be, I don't want to be like a, party pooper or anything, but
Oh,
I
poop
could
away.
hear that, I've got a small risk, but it's there because we're under a warning, but I could hear that siren tonight.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so it's, as soon as you hear it, it just puts this hit, and
Mm-hmm.
I heard it, and I was like, do I need to go in the basement?
Right. Yeah. Are we at a wedding and we got to go hide?
Yeah. And it's just such a feeling of like, because again, it happens, they're inside this store, that siren goes off, and you're like, what does this mean? And it is the sequence, it's the siren, and then the fire department goes by, and then it goes off, or is it the fire department goes by and then the siren goes off? I can't remember.
It's the fire department first.
First,
Yeah, that's yeah.
and then the disaster siren goes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was that's how I put it in my point, in that they get up to the grocery store, and it's kind of like attached to some other stores. There's a pharmacy, we find out, that's next door, and there's a big parking lot, and they park, and as they're moving towards the grocery store, you see a lot of the characters we're going to meet later on. They're all kind of like just showing up, as you would imagine, because everyone is going to the grocery store to get ice and food and things, because there's no power, and all their stuff, they're going to need supplies. They're going to need stuff to kind of gut it out until the power gets back on. And I believe also on the road you see several power trucks driving around past them as well. So you get that sense that, well, maybe they're going to fix the lines and everything's going to be fine. And of course, David like separates from his son and Brent, because he wants to call his wife on the payphone, because we get the note of like, man, I still don't have cell reception even here in town.
Yeah.
That's odd, and you're like, no, it's not odd, it's horrible, what are you doing?
This is terrible, run away.
Yeah, and of course he goes and he picks up the phone, and the payphone, the landline, is making that nee 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 sound that is never good at ever, and so then they go into the store and they start talking to some of the people. They talk to Sally, who's the checkout girl, and they talk to Ollie, who's the assistant manager, and the store is jam packed, and of course everyone's paying with like checks, because there's no internet, there's no credit cards, there's none of that, and so on.
There's no power.
Yeah, and all these people are kind of milling, and at this point everyone's just sort of like more like inconvenienced than afraid, because it's like, oh, the power's out, oh god, now all those steaks I just bought are gonna go bad, all the things that you think about, right, when that happens. And it's at that moment that all of a sudden they hear the sirens, and like 2 police cars and then 2 like fire trucks and an ambulance go tearing down like the main street of this little town. And again, they're moving, they're doing 50, 60 miles an hour. And first of all, that's super unsettling, right? Because
Yes.
when you see that, you're like, something happened. You know,
Yes.
something bad happened somewhere. And then as soon as they leave, there's like a second or two where everyone's sort of like, wow, wonder where they're going. I wonder what happened. And it's right at that moment that the disaster sirens start. And like you said, it's like that you get that pit in your stomach, because unless it's like the first of the month, and it's 10 a.m. in the morning and they're testing it, right?
It's never a good thing to hear it.
Right. It's not good. And I mean, I can tell you, as someone that grew up here in the Midwest, and I would love to get your take as someone that you know, a lot of your younger years were spent out on the East Coast. I don't know how prevalent this was, but growing up, you know, where we were in Tornado Alley, we were in the area where tornadoes are a thing. That this was like, you know, we would have tornado drills, you know, at least once or twice a year at school, where they'd make everybody, you know, go out in the hallway or get under your desk or any of those things. And because I'm a kid of the 70s and the 80s, we had nuclear disaster drills too, you know, where somehow someone had the idea of, you know, if a nuclear weapon goes off, if all the kids go out in the hallway and get down on their hands and knees and put their hands covering their necks, that will somehow protect us from radiation and fallout. But we did it. And so I wanted to ask you, like, when you were growing up, you know, did you have the tornado drills, or was that just not a thing out on the coast like that when you grew up in, you know, in Massachusetts like you did?
I never heard a tornado siren in any way until I moved to the Midwest.
Really?
And to be fair, I've never heard one until we moved out to like the country.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's when you're in the city, because when, you know, you live in the city and I used to live in the city, there's really no, you know, other than hearing the test, right? So I guess I take that back. I probably heard the test siren a little bit, maybe. We didn't have that when I was growing up. We didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
And I'm a little younger than you, so we didn't do the nuclear one. But I'm also old enough that I never did an active shooter one either.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm in the sweet spot of all we did was fire drills.
Fire drills. Just fire drill. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I never in my upbringing ever did any other kind of, not that I'm aware of. I cannot remember us doing anything else other than that.
Okay.
And there really wasn't any real need to, you know, in my entire life, we've had storms, don't get me wrong, but usually storms on the East Coast are, you know, we'd get hurricanes, we'd get the remnants of hurricanes typically. And that would usually translate into just coastal flooding, and I wasn't right next to the coast, so it usually didn't affect me. You know, unless you had one that was in the winter, and that's more of a nor'easter, and you end up with, like, you know, snow and ice as coming up and whatever. But it's there's never any siren, if that, you know what I mean. I never grew up with that as any part of my upbringing.
Okay.
No, I was a full grown adult first time I heard it, and it was like we had to get in the basement, and you're like, okay, this is a thing.
This is a thing.
I think we weren't even at our house. I think we were at friends that live up closer to Rockford, and we had actually been out for dinner, and we chased the storm home, and then we got back to their house, and we were literally eating like Dairy Queen blizzards or something that we'd gotten after dinner, and we had to go to we had to grab all their pets and go to the basement and whatever, and they lost like their shed in the wind and whatever, and I saw an actual green sky.
Oh, you've seen the green sky. Nice.
I've seen the green sky. It's good times. But that's you know, we've had the siren happen a few times while we've been out here. And knock wood, it's been mostly just high winds, and we
Yeah.
lose some branches here and there. We had one like last year, I think. We had a nice big branch fall on the roof, and it was and it didn't really damage anything, but we're so.
Sure.
But yeah, it's to answer your question. Sorry, then no, like it's such a part ingrained in your upbringing. You know what I mean? And it's like you said, like it's the test at the beginning of the month. It's just a part of your brain.
Yeah.
It's there. It lives inside your head.
Absolutely. And the Chicago, the big city, while tornadoes, we've been lucky that they rarely will strike in the main, like city limits. And there is a meteorological reason for that. It's just very hard for them. I don't know if it's because we're so close to the lake and the pressure difference or whatever, but that doesn't mean that they don't have the sirens. And they also, throughout the whole 50s, 60s, 70s, there was always this chance of, the Russians like obliterating us. And so there were air raid sirens. And very, very famously in 1959, when the Chicago White Sox won the pennant, Mayor Daley, the senior Mayor Daley, because his son went on to become the mayor later on, but the senior Mayor Daley, he ran the air raid sirens in Chicago to celebrate that, oh my God, the White Sox just clinched the pennant and we're going to the World Series. And a big chunk of the city, and this is like 1959, a big chunk of the city thought we were under attack from the Russians. So, because again, they're not following baseball, and all of a sudden those sirens go off in a time that it's not a scheduled test. In the middle of the night kind of a thing, that kind of thing. It just, people are like, oh my God, this is it. So yeah. And when it happens in the movie, it's great because again, you're like, that's not good. and then right on top of it, right after the siren starts ringing, that's when the mist like rolls into the town. And like just in front of it, running for his life, is the great Jeffrey DeMunn, who we know and love as Dale from The Walking Dead. And he's running, and like clearly he like fell or something, hit his nose and like broke his nose, because he's got blood streaming down his nose and his chin and onto his shirt. And he's running, and he's basically screaming about how something is in the mist, and it took someone named John Lee, just grabbed him. Oh my God. And of course everyone is like, ah, when
they're all just sort of standing there with their mouths open, like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And you have to sort of put yourself in that moment, like in an ordinary moment because this isn't like, War of the Worlds where you see the ship come in, or, the horror movie where you see the terrible monster is coming towards you. This is a totally normal thing to have like mist come in like that. I mean, it is abnormal for it to look like this, but it's like, mist rolls in. It does that. It's mist. So for someone to come running in and say they took it, something in the mist took John Lee, you literally have to like wrap your brain around what? Like, what does that mean? Because we can't see anything. All we can see is this mist, and you're taking the word of a man who just came running out of the mist with a little blood on his face. Like, could he be crazy? Could he not be? We don't know. And so it's definitely like when you were talking about like the ratcheting of the unsettlement, like each successive moment that just makes it more and more unsettling. Having sorry, he's gonna be Dale. Having Dale run out of the fog with the blood on his face is like that is like, oh my God, what does this mean? And then when he's yelling what he's yelling, but just the image of him is enough to make you go, this is bad. This is so bad.
Yeah, it's just everything is, like I said, Darabont just kind of builds it up, brick by brick, where it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and yet nothing overt yet, right? Just, I mean, clearly something happened to Jeffrey DeMunn because, and again, it's Dan, right? It's Dan, not Dale, Dan. he clearly, fell and he's hurt himself and he's very hysterical and agitated, but we don't really know what is he talking, like you said, what do you mean something took him, a
Yeah.
bear? I mean, what could it be? You know what I mean? And so then everybody gets in the store, and they're all looking out these giant plate glass windows as this mist just enshrouds the town to where you can see, like, what would you say, like maybe 2-3 feet past the windows, and then it's just white.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's so obscure, like the cars in the parking lot you can't see them. There's just nothing out there that you can see at all. And now it's like, what does that mean? What do we do? And remember, there's the one guy, like, he runs out of the store and tries to make it to his car, and
Yeah.
he of course makes the classic horror movie mistake of not having his keys ready. He's just running.
Keys?
Yeah, right. And this is 2007, which is really before the fob was a thing. So
Yeah.
like his car, like you have to like put the key into the door lock and unlock it. It's not like you can hit a button, or when you get close enough to the car, it'll just unlock for you. And so he gets out to his car and then has the keys moment and can't get them out of his pocket. And the mist just kind of rolls over him. And then you just hear him in this bloody death scream, and he's gone.
Yes. I feel like that's a common thing. And isn't that that's a great thing to sort of get to scare the bejesus out of you, is the best way to put it, is, when there's something that happens that you can't see.
Yes.
That's very Hitchcockian. It's very, I mean, the classic directors and the classic movies, and they really do a great job of having that happen off screen, or having it happen, so that it's covered up in some way so you can't see. So it's worse, like what's going on in your head is the worst thing, because we don't know. Is he being torn apart? Is he being, whatever? We don't know.
Yeah,
we just can't see him.
It just, all you get is the audio, and the audio certainly suggests that very bad things happened.
Yes, it's definitely very bad audio.
Yes.
I'll give you that.
Yes.
Let's in terms of like going in terms of the timeline of the movie, your number 3 comes up before my number 3. So let's talk about yours first, which is the I would say the gunfight at the OK Corral that happens at the the loading dock.
The loading dock, yeah. And I have to say, I love this scene. There's a scene later on it's a conversation scene that is my absolute favorite moment of this movie, because it illuminates a philosophy that I absolutely believe, and I think the best horror movies follow it, and I've referenced it when we've talked about Walking Dead over the years many times, and so we'll get to that. But I adore the tentacle scene. And in the movie theater when this happened, oh my God. And having read the story, and in the Stephen King story, Norm does get dragged out of the loading dock by tentacles, right? So it's not like I didn't know it was coming, but it is just so great. I mean, it's so amazing. But before we get that, I think we should mention that if you decided after Jeffrey DeMunn shows up screaming, if that's the moment where you decide you're going to go out and go to the bathroom or go get popcorn or something, you're going to miss Melissa McBride. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because we get this great scene where she comes up, and this is one of Melissa McBride's very first major screen roles. So one of her first big things that got her going. Obviously, Frank Darabont recognized something in her because he brought her along in a few years with Walking Dead. But in this movie, Melissa McBride's character is credited at the end as woman with kids at home.
I saw that on IMDb and I loved it.
It's awesome. It's awesome,
yeah.
right? And literally she's like, she's like, I need to go home. And of course, everyone's like, you can't go out in the mist because we just seen all this stuff. We heard that guy. What do you go out there, you're gonna die. And she's like, I need to go home because my kids are by themselves. And she literally has like an 8-year-old watching like a 4-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And she points out that the 8-year-old she sometimes forgets because she's 8, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, and I told them I'd be back in a minute, so I have to go. And they're all like, you can't go out there. And then she's like, will someone please walk me home? And she kind of runs through the usual suspects there, right? And she asks Brent, and she looks at Dan, she looks at Ollie, she looks at Bud, who's the manager of the store, and finally she comes to David, and David is like, hey, look, I got my own kid to take care of,
Yeah.
And so literally she like spits in everybody's face as she walks out, like, fine. You know what I mean? Like, you guys can all rot in hell. And she gets outside and she kind of takes a deep breath and she just plunges into the mist and is gone. And
I was gonna say never to be seen again, but not until like a conclusion sort of moment.
Yes.
Her appearance made it was on my list, but I just threw it in my honorable mentions that it's just clear that Melissa McBride cannot keep her kids safe.
Not in any story.
No, it is just not in her capacity to be like, just folks, she's not the person to choose as your babysitter. Just like, ultimately she's gonna get a negative a negative report on any kind of babysitting website, that's for sure.
Well, although, we should point out that when we do see her at the end, her kids are with her. So,
right.
It's
so
not like
she redeems in the end in a very, like, that was not an ending I was expecting. I was expecting the classic Melissa McBride. That's it. She gone.
Or she's like crazy Carol, like, gone, but again, and obviously we're jumping ahead because we do see her again. But when she leaves, you're like, well, she's dead. She didn't make it. She's gone. And yet I love it because it's a little bit of very delicious irony that Darabont throws out there, that if any of these meatheads would have gone with her, they would have made it.
Yes.
And yet they didn't, because we're going to be safe in the store. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because Melissa McBride, clearly we love her and we love what she's gone on to do, and this was kind of her start, and so this is where we first really get to see her in a major like film or television production, and I just think it's awesome. And again, got the short hair going, right? Just like she will as Carol a few years later. And I think I speak for both of us in that we love Melissa McBride. So.
Oh, yeah. Without question.
Without question, yeah. So anyway, there's something going on in the loading dock. I think like David wants to get like a blanket for his son, because his son is like freaking out and almost like going into shock by all this stuff that's happening. He's just getting overwhelmed. So he goes back there and they have a generator, a gas powered generator that they're running to like keep their like refrigerators moving and going. So like the food in the store won't go bad. And it's clearly like the exhaust pipe outside is blocked, and so the fumes are just filling up in this loading dock, and so he's coughing, and clearly there's lots of smoke in the room and everything, and he turns off the generator, and then he looks at the door, the big door that they open up that the trucks will back into to unload, and like something, I don't know what, but something very big presses against this door, and it moves like a good like foot or two, and it's just corrugated metal. It's not like a real sturdy thing, and he's like, what the hell? And then again, great casting in that Bill Sadler is in this movie. He plays this dude named Jim, who's like a local, and like he's dressed in like a jumpsuit, like he like is a mechanic or something, right? And and he's there with his friend Myron, Jim and Myron, and they're like locals who like you can tell like barely got out of high school, but they're like working at they like run a gas station or something. And they show up and they're like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he tries to tell them about he heard this weird noise and something's in there, and they're like, they don't really believe him. And then they're like, "Hey, you know what? If we start the generator, we can open the door." And then this bag boy Norm is like, "If you do that, I'll jump outside and I'll fix whatever's blocking the exhaust pipe so we can run the generator and keep everything going." And the two of them are like, "Yeah, good idea." And David's like, "Are you guys crazy?" and they get into a fight where like, he they basically, tell him, "We don't appreciate, you rich people telling us that you're better than we are," and this whole class thing kind of shows up.
It escalates really quickly
Yeah,
into something else.
And eventually, they're like, "Shut the hell up, or we're gonna, if you, what is, Jim says something like, the next time you're gonna give me your opinion, you better count your teeth, and and it gets really kind of violent and dark very quickly, and eventually they're just like, you just shut up, and we're gonna do this. We don't care what you say." And literally David's looking at Norm like, "Dude, don't do this, man. What do you do? Think about it." And the kid's like, "Yeah, screw you." You know what I mean? And I think it almost becomes a point where like the three of them decide they're gonna do it just because he doesn't want them to do it. And the whole idea of, is it a smart idea or not, is not anything they're thinking about at all.
It's immaterial.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're just gonna prove you wrong, dude. And so they open the door, and the kid's like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this," right? And it opens like maybe a foot or two, and then they're kind of looking at each other, and Myron's like, "Do you see any boogeyman?" And they're laughing and thinking, and all of a sudden there's a shot of Thomas Jane, of David, and he has this like reaction shot of like, "Oh," and literally a ginormous tentacle swings in through the mist and grabs hold of Norm's leg and starts dragging him out, right? And then it's just chaos where they're all freaking out, and they're grabbing him and trying to pull him back and then pull him in, and then as they're struggling with it, like 6 more tentacles come through the opening, and we find out they're not like just like octopus tentacles. They're like tentacles with these like sharp like nails that are very capable of ripping open, I don't know, Norm's leg, Norm's face, Norm's neck. I mean, so that now there's blood everywhere, and like a tentacle like picks up like a bag of like dog food, like a 60-pound bag of dog food, and just crushes it, and Myron and Jim get covered in dog food at one point, and I mean, it is total chaos, and they try and save Norm, and ultimately he is literally dragged out into the mist, and there's this great shot where Norm looks up at them and kind of puts his hand out as sort of like, "Save me," and he's already, I imagine, mortally wounded, right? And then he just is gone into the mist. And they close, they're able to bring the door down, and they close it, and they're able to chop with an axe a little piece of one of the tentacles off, so there's a little bit of tentacle left. And literally the 4 of them, because Ollie's in there too, they're just like staring like, what the hell just happened? I mean, huge, like, I don't believe what I just saw kind of moment, right? And David gets so angry at these 2 guys because this kid is dead that he literally beats the snot out of Bill Sadler, out of Jim.
Yes.
And Jim's like, "I'm sorry, like, you didn't make it clear like what you meant. Like, you should have told me what you meant." And he's just like, "You prick." And he's like, "That kid is dead now because of you," and so they're like, "What do we do?" And then they're like, "We got to tell people in the store that they absolutely cannot go outside because these things are out there." And so, but don't tell everybody right away because we don't want to panic. We got to figure out how we're going to do this, and some of them go out and start getting beer and drinking it to kind of like calm themselves down. And I love this line because David starts talking to Ollie, and Ollie is it's played by this great British actor named Toby Jones, who
I love him.
I do too. He's great in everything, and he's awesome as this character as well. And he is like, I would say, out of the people in the grocery store, he is the most rational guy there, without a doubt.
Right.
And he he and David are like, what are we gonna do? How do we? And David's like, we got to tell them. And Ollie's like, how? How do we tell them what we just saw, and they don't think we're freaking crazy, right? And at one point, David kind of goes, it doesn't matter, we have to tell them. But Ollie, I got to ask you, what the hell were those tentacles even attached to?
Yeah.
And I love that line, because when the tentacles come in there, it's crazy, and you're like, oh my god. But then rationally you have to ask yourself, well, wait a minute, tentacles have to be attached to something. They have to be
Right.
the tentacles of a thing. What could possibly be miles away from the ocean that has tentacles? So
Yeah.
what did you think of this scene? Because like I said, I adore this scene. What did you think?
It's so, and I hate to keep using the word unsettling, but it's so, that something is there. Dan Dale, we're just gonna call him Dan Dale. When he comes in and says it's, the guy John Lee was taken, that there's something out there. There's something that is taking people, and we haven't seen it yet, but we know it's going to be some kind of. And then you see the pressing against the loading dock, so that there's something, of size, and then when they open it up, and then it's tentacles, and at first it escalates, because first it's tentacles, and then when it raises and it sort of unfolds and shows off its like spiky parts.
Yeah,
as
yes,
it were.
yes.
It like becomes something else. Like first it's just this long snaky tentacle, and then it lifts up and it goes like whoop, and it opens up, and you're like, oh, it's more. It's not just tentacles. It's tentacles with like, it's like if you had like a, you're like, oh, it's this really pretty thing opening up. Yeah, and it's a Venus flytrap, and it's like gonna sting you and kill you and whatever. So it's on the surface it was one thing, it became something else, and then there's no way this scene wasn't going to be anything but a big mess. As soon as they were going to open that gate, I was like, okay, this is going to devolve into like there's going to be screaming, there'll probably be blood.
Yes.
And it did all of those things and more.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting how the kid was just so centered on like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I don't care that it's scary out there. Mm-hmm. And then immediately is like, mommy, help me.
Yeah, it's basically as soon as it grabbed him, he's like, oh, I've made a terrible mistake.
Yes, mistakes were made. Yeah. Can you help me now,
yes,
please?
I chose poorly. Yes, I'd like to rethink my answer, please. Can I use a lifeline? Can I call a friend?
Yeah. Literally. He needed a lifeline, literally.
Oh yeah.
I did, and I love Toby Jones, and the moment where he goes and is like, and is thinking, like he's probably the most, I don't know, he's like got the most forward-thinking brain. Like he's like, I would rather be with, and David's character is like this big guy. He looks like he could handle himself in a fight. He really does in about 3 minutes, and beats the shit out of Jim and whatever. But Toby Jones, his character of Ollie is very like, you know what we need right now?
Yeah.
An axe.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know where there is one. He grabs one. He's there. He's very resourceful. He just knows, like, and that happens throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, throughout the movie.
Always, yeah, he's like the Johnny on the spot. He's the Ollie on the spot.
Well, I think of him, he's the most grounded, and he doesn't get hysterical. And like you said, he's always thinking, oh, there's this big, 60-foot thing coming at me. I'm not just going to freak out. What can I do? What's around me? What can I use? And yeah, I agree. I mean, David is clearly the leader, and you think he can handle himself, but Ollie is definitely the guy that I would want to like help me try and make it to the car.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely the guy I would want with me.
Yeah. So
I was just gonna say he also, it just goes to show, and there's also that little thing that's in play which goes with your one of your quotes later, which was, his boss Bud seems to be not as in touch with the store and like the building and the goings on of the building, whereas Ollie knew right where to get like the axe. He didn't go running around going, I need something that'll cut. Like he thought it, he knew where it was, he grabbed it, and he just, it seems like he's resourceful too about this building. Right. Like if anybody's going to know anything about how to best fortify themselves and save themselves in this building, he's that guy.
Yeah, well, and remember too that he very quickly points out that the front of the store is plate glass windows, right? He's like, yeah, you think because they're Myron and Jim are like, well, we closed the door so it can't get in, and they're talking about the metal loading dock door, and it's like a big garage door, right? And Ollie's like, yeah, the front of the store, it's plate glass window. You know what I mean? You're like, and everybody in the room is suddenly like, oh, fork, because they look out and they see it, right? And they're just like, well, what are we gonna do? So yeah, he's even smart enough to and thinking enough to be like, yeah, we have a bigger problem than just what happened to poor Norm, the bag boy. We've got like all these people, and if that thing decides to come around to the front of the store, we're screwed. So I wanted to ask you though, what did you think of the CGI of that sequence? Because the mist, a big chunk of it is practical, which I really like. But there is some CGI in it, and this is probably the biggest CGI scene. And it for my taste, I don't think it holds up as well. I mean, at the time, I was blown away by it. When I watch it now, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's fake, And that's just the passing of time. That's not unusual. But I wanted to get your take. What did the effects? Did it take you out of the moment at all? Because you're like, yeah, that's not there.
The only thing that took me out of it is not even so much the construction of it. Like, it read as a tentacle, as, and once it unfolds and it's more menacing. The thing that did it for me was there didn't seem to be any urgency with it. It wasn't fast. It was like this slow, slithering, hey, let me give you some time to think about it, kind of, you know what I mean? So I think that's the thing that I didn't like about the scene, was I wish that the if they were really like grabbing something they were going to eat or whatever, wouldn't it have like put its tentacle in and grabbed him right away and been out? Like it felt like it was and that's just dramatic effect, right? Is to, have it be drawn out the way it was. The CGI didn't bother me too much. It's not fantastic, considering what we're used to now, but it didn't take me out of the scene. Absolutely not. Okay. It didn't bother me at all. Plus, in those instances, to me, I'm like, it's not real anyway. If they were trying to have like a lion's paw come through and it looked very CGI, but I don't know what a real like tentacle creature is supposed to look like in real life. So I mean, if it looks a little fake, it's because it doesn't exist. So with no reference for it, it didn't need to look like something because there was nothing that it needed to, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it didn't need to look like anything in particular. So it did not bother me as much.
Okay. For me, there's one sequence when Ollie like jumps over one of the tentacles where you're just like, okay, that clearly was Toby Jones told, all right, when you get here, just kind of jump. like you're jumping over something, and it just that to me is like one of the big parts of the movie where I'm like, oh, that effect just doesn't work. But that's it. And like I said, everything else about this scene I absolutely loved. It was so great. It was so out of left field. It was so crazy. And this is the beginning of the movie to where, Frank Darabont, like from that moment on, basically every time something comes out of the mist, it gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And it's great. It's awesome.
Yes. Yes. And so, yes, I love the question that you included, which is what were those tentacles even attached to?
Yeah.
Because they don't know. They shut that door. They have this real quick powwow where they're like, all right, we can't tell anybody what happened here. But obviously, like, David has, like, blood on him and whatever. They literally, well, there's blood everywhere. Plus, he beat the crap out of Jim. They fought. So, like, there's evidence of, like, something happened here. And then they decide, like, okay, they have this whole discussion about bringing in someone who might be able to sway, and I think he even says at the time, and obviously you've seen this a million times, so you remember, when they talk about talking to Brent first, is it because he's a lawyer and stuff, or did they also bring up the stuff about him not being a he's not a year-rounder, he's just a vacation person, he owns a vacation home there, so he's not a resident, he's like a summer person or whatever. So I can't remember, is that what they, like, he could help sway the other summer people or something like that? Or did they lean on the he's rational and he's a lawyer and, we can show him this evidence and he'll believe it?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter. It's Ollie points out that someday he could be on the bench as a judge. And so if they can win him over and convince him that, they're in real trouble, people will listen to him because they know who he is. They know he's a big time attorney in New York City. They know that he has this reputation of not being, a Yahoo. And so if he were to come out and be like, yeah, you know what, people, we need to really not go outside because there are things out there, they're going to be more inclined to believe him. That it's more that than I think the fact that he's a summer homer kind of a person.
Yeah. So they do go to Brent and they give him the whole story about that there's something in the mist, like Dan Dale said, and they present everything to him, and they're like, we just we're in the loading dock and this happened, and at first he's like, are you joking with me? And they're right away are like, do you want to come and see, like, there's blood and whatever? Well, and he gets angry right off the bat.
He does.
Because at first he's like, are you pulling my leg? And if you are, cut it out. And they keep persisting. And they're like, no, this is terrible. It just happened. You need to, we need you on our side. You're a smart guy, whatever. And he's like, he immediately gets absolutely pissed off. Like, you are trying to make me look stupid. Like, and there's a lot there when Brent gets angry, because he unleashes on all of these guys, and there's a lot of, like, pent up anger about how he feels as being, like, a part-time resident. He's treated a certain way, and he knows that these, he points to Jim and Myron as like, you guys, I've heard, talking behind my back, and, and he's like talking to David about, this is because I sued you, and this is the way you're going to get back at me, is what it, and it's like, whoa, like he's got something for almost everyone that's standing there. I think only Ollie is left out of it, but he is so angry that they are he thinks that they're trying to make him look stupid, and that they're trying to catch him in this thing and make him look dumb and stupid in front of everybody else. to as some sort of like big conspiracy to make him look dumb, I guess. I don't know. It's really interesting. And they go so far as he's like, when he says the quote that I included, it's when he decides that he wants his group of people to leave, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he goes that far that he's like, we're going to leave. And he's like, well, you can't leave. Someone just died. And he's like, he rejects all of that. And there's a group of, would you say like about 7 people total, 7 or 8, that go with Brent when he leaves?
Yes.
Yeah, about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the quote that I included was his whole stance of, you're making fun of me. This is all a joke. There's no way that there's something like that out there. What are you saying?
Tentacles from Planet X is what he says
exactly.
At one point. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, Dan came running in. We don't know what that was. That could be, he's basically scoffing at all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's no logical reason, yada, yada. And he's got this group of people that are like, forget it. We're leaving. We're not going to get stuck in here with you people. We're leaving. And he's like, and David tells him, if you, you're going to be wrong, mm-hmm. because Brent's kind of like, the joke's going to be on you or whatever. And David's like, well, what if you're wrong? And his response is, then I guess the joke would be on me after all.
Yeah.
So he's, he makes that comment that they're making a joke against him saying all this crazy stuff. But he's like, I guess then ultimately, but he rejects it all.
Mm-hmm.
So his whole thing is like, if it turns out that you're right, then I guess the joke is on me because I rejected it, and he leaves with this small group of people. And unlike Melissa McBride and her kids, we don't see them again.
No, it does not end well for poor Brent and his little group. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about that scene because I don't know. It's got to be that I think the writing here is this is one of the few parts of the script where I'm kind of like, I'm not sure of, because earlier in the movie when Melissa McBride is like, will someone please, walk me to my house? Brent very obviously is like, I'm not going out there. And so he's clearly afraid. He's clearly, not quite this sort of, it's all made up and it's not real. There's nothing out there. And yet the very next scene when they confront him with this, hey, if you come in here, we'll show you a piece of tentacle and blood all over the place. And, Norm is gone, right? And his first response is like, you guys are just trying to make me look stupid and that there's nothing out there. And it's just so opposite. And I was... It didn't really hit me the right way, and I wonder if you picked up on that at all. In that it's sort of like he's one way and then he's the other way.
What's funny? Until you mentioned that, I totally didn't pick up on that. It didn't register that he was one way and then another. If anything, like it was being, I think the whole idea of being made fun of to his face made him just not want to be there with those people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think he had started a conversation with others about leaving the place, and this was like the thing that put him over the edge.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that it's like he didn't want to leave to help someone, which, as we all know, if any of those people had helped Melissa McBride, they would be alive.
most likely they would have made it. Yes. Yeah.
That
the irony of irony, right? That if any of them would have went, yeah, I'll walk with you, lady, they would have been fine, you know. But yeah, I love it. I think we should also point out too that while the tentacle thing's happening and immediately after that, we start to see that the people in the store, and what would you say, there's got to be like maybe 50 people, 60 people in the store. Would that be a safe guess?
I think that's a safe number about there.
Yeah. And we start to see even at this early beginning where nothing really horrible has happened for everyone yet, right? The small group has witnessed the horrors in the loading dock, but that's just them. The rest of them are kind of still in this, this is weird kind of view of things. Yet we're already starting to see groups are forming.
Yeah.
And you get, Brent is kind of talking to his little group and talking about how this is all nonsense and that we have nothing to be afraid of, and that we what does he say, if we want to get out of here, we have to help ourselves, and so we have to go out and find help because help isn't necessarily going to find us. And then we also meet like we said, Marcia Gay Harden as Mrs. Carmody. And when we first meet her, she's the religious nut job.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And everybody kind of scoffs at her. Yes. And points out, how ridiculous she is and how the crazy conspiracies that she believes in, and everyone thinks she's a nut job. And it's very important to point this out because this view changes. as the story goes along, but even at this point, we're already starting to see this massive group is already starting to fracture into little smaller groups of like-minded people, and again, it's going to come back in a really bad way for our main characters as we move forward. But that line where Andre Braugher, when he says that, going, well, then I guess the joke would be on me after all. And and in the audience, you're like, dude, do not go outside. It's just, and yet he's just like, no, I'm going, right? And it's it's a great scene, but it's also, I don't like it because I wanted more of Andre Braugher in the movie.
Yeah.
But I think Darabont does a good job of kind of misdirecting us as an audience and suggesting, well, these characters are going to make it, and then, oh wait, they're dead. And because he does it again a little bit later on, where we'll mention with Sally and the soldier, where you certainly get the sense that those two are clearly nope, and horrible. But my fourth point is actually a bit that happens just before Brent decides to leave.
Yes,
and that is, when they fail to convince Brent, he kind of raises his voice and sort of attracts attention. And a lot of the other people in the store now are gathering by the loading docks. And they, basically now David and everyone, they just got to kind of come clean to everyone. And they're talking about tentacles and Norm's dead and, we're in real trouble. And most people are looking at him like, yeah, what are you smoking? And not really believing him. And then Bud, who is the store manager, he sees that Ollie and Myron and Jim are all drinking Budweisers there, and he's like, you guys are drinking, and so then it's suddenly the idea of maybe they're a little buzzed, right? They're inebriated, and now they're just making stuff up or whatever, and further degrading the chances of anyone believing them. And finally they basically just tell Bud, look, we'll show you, which I don't understand. Why didn't they lead with that with Brent, of like, look, there's a piece of tentacle in the storeroom right there. You think that would be like, you want evidence, there it is, but they don't. And so eventually with Bud, they're like, come here, we will show you. And so they go back in there and he sees the tentacle. And of course, it like dissolves, right? It's like, of course, damn, you missed, that no one else can really see it. But he does, and I think they like poke it with like a broom handle or something, and it moves, it twitches a little, and so he's convinced, that it's real. And again, Norm's blood is all over the place in there, and you can see that something happened there because the dog food bag is ripped open and it's everywhere and so on. And so they come back outside into the store, and everyone's staring expectantly at Bud to kind of say, yeah, they're all full of crap. And he looks around and he goes, it appears that we may have a problem of some magnitude here.
I like it because it's such a It's such a like it says everything you need because he was like right up in Ollie's face like what is happening here, this is not, and when he gets the evidence he's just like it appears we and it's such a managerial thing to say too. He's not like shit or you know what I mean, he's just like
we done screwed.
It appears that there's a problem of some magnitude here.
And then Darabont cuts right on that line, right, and it's great and it's funny. And yet, it's also scary because, it lets the audience know that, you know what? Yeah, these people are all in serious trouble. If you didn't know that already, right? So now, your fourth point, and again, oh my God, this scene, this is tied in with Brent leaving. Yes. And first of all, I have to ask you, because you are a Sons of Anarchy fan, correct?
Yeah.
And you definitely love yourself some Ryan Hurst. Yeah. Could you not see Ryan Hurst as that dude that they tie the rope to?
Sure. I mean, he could have. It's just...
In 2007, he would have been like 18, but, he would have been super young.
Yeah.
But, I see that guy, and then later on, when you see Ryan Hurst in Sons of Anarchy, I'm just like, oh my God, they could have got him to do that. It would have been great.
They could have. He's, but that guy, the biker, that's another Darabont guy. He was in Shawshank. He was one of the group. So it was nice to see him because you don't see him in a lot of roles. He's a big dude. He's kind of awkward looking. So it's you see him in a lot of this kind of stuff, very character roles.
Total character actor. And I was going to point out, he's one of the inmates with Bill Sadler.
Yep.
That Andy befriends.
He's the one that is like, I do believe you're talking out your ass, Red. He's got a great line
there. You're right. He has that kind of grizzled, kind of like Sam Elliott kind of face.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's wonderful. He's a really cool. I'm trying to look up his name on the credit list here.
I am. And Floyd. I think Floyd was his. So it's Brian Libby.
Brian Libby. Yes.
Yeah,
Brian
and
Libby,
he's in The Mist as well. He was in Heat. Oh, we'll have to look up that. He's great. So anyway, so this scene happens. So they, when Brent leaves, they're like, listen, they were talking through like logistically, like I have, do you guys have a gun in the store? No, we don't have a gun. And then, Andrea, what is her name? Amanda?
Her Amanda's again very close. It's Amanda.
Yeah.
Her name is Amanda. Laurie Holden again, early Laurie Holden role, and she's great as usual.
Yeah. I think it would be hilarious since Dale is Dan and Andrea is Amanda. They should have had, instead of woman who left 2 children at home, should have just been Karen.
Right?
Cora. Exactly. So she's got a gun in her purse, and they're like they have one gun, but there's an older dude, this guy Ambrose, who's like, I got a shotgun in the car, but my it's way across the parking lot, and they want to try and test out like how far can they go. They were like, well, maybe we can just because when Brent goes to leave, didn't they ask him, can you tie the rope on you? And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. Because they're trying to figure out like how far he can make it, and he's like, no, I'm not. And so the dude, the biker dude, Floyd, as it were, from Shawshank, he's like, I'll do it. And they give him the keys to the car so he can get the gun. The whole point.
Drive the truck back so he can get the pickup or get the shotgun, and I think the shells are in the glove compartment or something, right?
Yeah. So he heads out. And he's got the rope tied around him, and he goes and goes and goes, and it's great. It's such a tense moment when he's going, and it's not going to end well. Like, I've seen way too many movies. This is not going to end well. He's not going to come running back and like, I got the shotgun, everybody. It worked. It's great. No, absolutely not. If anything, I was expecting he's going to get the shotgun and he'll load it, and then he'll make it halfway back, and then he'll get pulled away and he'll shoot the gun by accident and it goes through the window and breaks the window and that's what I was expecting, was absolute disaster. And that did happen, just in a much more muted sense. So anyway, so he makes it, and at this point he goes and they've got a little slack on the rope and they're like, and it stops. So you know that he's like made it to the truck, is the assumption. I'm using air quotes here. That he's made it to this guy's truck because everything stops. And they're like, okay, give it some slack or whatever. And then the rope starts to get pulled, like, really far. Now, it's not like a thicker rope that you could really get some, traction on. It's a little thin, almost like a clothesline kind of rope.
It's like a nylon rope. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so they're trying to grab onto it, and it is sliding right through their hands to the point where, like, Ollie takes his, like, apron, which he is still wearing, and he, like, places it over the rope to get some kind of traction. And they finally, there's about 3 or 4 of them that grab the rope that are trying to hang on, and they finally get a little bit of traction on it so that they're able to hold the rope and it's not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden it lets go and they, like, fall back and they're like, oh god, and they start reeling the rope back in. Oh, I'm sorry.
You missed the best part.
The best part of it, which was when it was pulling, it's pulling and they're hanging on for dear life, and then while they're hanging on for dear life, this is the point I made. Sorry, I almost jumped right over it. And out of nowhere, the rope lifts off the ground and it goes up.
To the top of the door.
To the top of the door. So they're literally, like, raising their arms up and they're hanging on for dear life to make sure they've got this rope, and it lifts up. So, in the horrifying sense of us not being able to see what it is that is killing this guy, not only can we not see it, but also there's some type of height involved now. Which
now
is,
it's like is there an elephant out there that grabbed him?
Horrifying. We're like, a rabid giraffe has taken hold, right? So
with tentacles.
Yes. So they are, like, leaning back into it, almost like, when you're playing a game of, like, tug of war. They are leaning back into it so that they're almost laying on the ground, and they're in this, like, reclined position because they've got their arms in the air, and it's up at the top of the door, and then it drops.
Right. And they go falling backwards.
Yeah, and it's gone slack, and it's like, okay, this is the part that's like, all right, this can't be good. And then they start pulling it in and pulling it in and pulling it in and pulling it in and pulling it in. There's a lot of slack because a lot pulled through their hands. And then eventually someone screams because the rope now is covered in blood.
It's all red. Yeah. It's a white nylon rope, and then all of a sudden it's a red nylon rope.
Yeah, exactly. And good choice on the white nylon rope, because if it had been like yellow or blue, the blood wouldn't have shown up quite as well.
It wouldn't have popped quite the same way.
Oh, it popped, man. Oh boy, did it pop. And they just are like, they pull as far as they can, and then when they see that all that's left of him is his waist down, they stop pulling. And that's another moment where someone is like, and screaming at the window, and it's just awful. But it's done so well. And like I said, I don't know if I said it when we were recording already or if it was prior to, but I reiterate that I think it also would have been very scary to pull the rope and have them, like, either get to the end and there's nothing there, because where did he go? Like, and have it be mangled up and chewed, or have, like, they just pull and they're like, they end up not seeing anything. Like, they just decide to, okay, we're not going to pull it all the way in because, gross. Like, we don't want to, or maybe they get I don't know, whatever. My point is that it's, you don't see what happened to him, but you see the aftermath, and it's still pretty frightening. And the whole act of the rope going up in the air was that's an ingenious thing to do. It's so small, but it's such a different take on what, because you would expect, you expected it to be pulled out of their hands. You expected them to end up in a tug of war. Like, you've seen this moment before where they're like, something's got him. But when the rope starts going up in the air. You've never seen that before, and it's so unsettling. It's really well done. It's really well done. Yeah, great moment.
Yeah,
Um,
I wanted to ask you because
mhm.
when that sequence happens, do you know what I'm reminded of a lot? And I wonder if you saw any of this or felt this at all. Is I'm reminded a lot of the opening scene in Jaws.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see
You
that.
know, where they're being, clearly they're being pulled, but we don't know what's pulling them. Although, I mean, in Jaws, you kind of know, but we can't see it.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of this unseen thing is sort of playing with them, and it kind of has that when poor Susan Backline's getting, basically eaten alive there in the ocean when she's skinny dipping. And it just, I'm wondering, because I know you, again, you're a huge Jaws fan. Is that something that
It
registered with you?
it didn't at the time. I can totally see the connection though. But yeah, that's a really good connection. I just it didn't register at the time though. No.
Okay, cool, cool.
No.
Yeah, the fact that when they drag back just the legs and like the intestines are hanging out and stuff, and we should also point out that before Brent leaves and this guy leaves, crazy Mrs. Carmody points out and prophesizes that you're all gonna die,
Mhm.
and that this is the wrath of God. And of course, when she's proven right, this again, you start seeing some of these people in the crowd that are kind of the faceless, nameless patrons are starting to look at each other like, hey, maybe this crazy lady isn't so crazy after all.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, so let's move on to it looks like our next point will probably be your number
Be
5.
mine,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
because they start stacking like dog food and like bags of like compost against the windows. Because and they're doing that before Brent and his group leaves, because as Ollie points out, it's just plate glass windows, one of which is cracked. Right,
Yep.
we see Dan Dale, using like duct tape to try and like tape over the cracks to try and help reinforce them, and so they're doing that, and they kind of settle into this kind of vigil where they're up by the windows. They create little windows in the bag so they can look through and see
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
And they like fire up a grill and are making some chicken so they have something to eat so that people there, and they Myron and Jim rig up these work lights with some car batteries, so if they can turn on and get some real light more than just like the little lanterns and flashlights they're using, and everyone's kind of just like hunkered down for the night, because again, night falls and now it's dark outside and the mist is still there. And
Mhm.
then these like, I don't know, what would you say, like foot long, maybe 18-inch long, like locust bug things start coming up to the glass.
Yes.
And and what I this is where it really goes Lovecraftian, because these are really the first things in the mist we can actually see.
Yes.
And what's great about it, they're these massive bugs that fly. They have huge stingers in their tails, and yet all of them, they have like little faces,
Mhm.
which is just so crazy that they have little heads with eyes and mouths and stuff. Which, terrestrial bugs, yeah, they have eyes and they have mouths, but not like faces. So
Yeah.
um and so they start showing up, and of course everybody immediately forgets everything they've ever learned about bugs, right? Like, what is it that moths are attracted to,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. I was like, turn
and
off the lights.
right, and instead they like bring more flashlights and are shining them out, going, huh, what are these things, and so on, and no one goes, guys, they're attracted to the lights, but they don't. And then this like weird like bird thing shows up that's much bigger. It's probably like 4 or 5 feet long, and it's like trying to eat these bugs. Clearly, it's like, ooh, food, but it starts smashing into the glass, and it's eventually one of the windows breaks, and then some of the bugs start getting into the store, and then it's like a comedy of errors, because they had like gotten a bunch of kerosene and some mops, and the idea was if something gets in there, we're going to dip the mop in the kerosene and then light it on fire so we have a torch. And they can't get a lighter to work, and so they can't light them. And then when finally, like, this one guy lights it, he like kicks the bucket of kerosene and then trips, and the torch lights him on fire, right? And he gets horribly burned. And so like their plan immediately goes haywire. And of course, this bird thing is in the store flying around, and one of these locust things comes right up to Sally, which is the checkout girl.
Yes.
That we have met, and it's played by this actor named Alexa Davalos, and people might have seen her. She was also in this Amazon series called The Man in the High Castle, which is this weird kind of alternate reality story about if the Axis had won World War II and they, like, Japan and Germany split America down the middle in terms of occupying it. And it's a real cool story. It's based on a book that was written by Philip K. Dick, which is the guy who wrote Blade Runner and Total Recall, and he did a bunch of really weird stories. She's in that, and she was also in a show, a CBS show called FBI Most Wanted for several years, and I really like her as an actor. But the bug lands on her and stings the neck, right? Just pops her, and then they pull the bug off her, and either it flies away or they kill it. I can't remember. And so she's on the ground, and I don't know, what would you say? Maybe about 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds later, like literally she's a grapefruit, right?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. And my comment was, Sally, she's swell. and yeah, literally, she, like, I mean, her neck and face where she was stung, I mean, she swells up, I mean, it's crazy how much. I mean, she has like the greatest allergic reaction to whatever that thing stung her with, and I mean, she's dead in like a minute, I would say.
Yes.
You
yes.
know?
And there's really like nothing. There's nothing they can do. What can they do in that moment?
Yeah. And so boom, suddenly she's dead, right? And I mean, I wrote down that moment for her, but I mean, it's really just that whole sequence because there's panic, and of course one of the locusts, as I guess we'll call them, lands right on Mrs. Carmody's like stomach. Yes. And starts like crawling up her, and she is like literally like, well, this is my time, and she starts praying and all this stuff, and then the locust flies away.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting? It
doesn't sting her. Yeah. And again, I think it's Darabont talking a little bit just about and kind of expressing his opinion perhaps of how random life is, that someone who is, as far as we can tell, genuinely a good person, and someone who deserves to survive this craziness, they get horribly killed by one of these things. And then you get someone who is arguably like the worst character in this entire movie, and she survives.
Yes.
It just,
of course,
it's just a real interesting bit. But yeah, what did you think of that whole actiony sequence when the bugs and the bird things get into the store?
Well, I thought first of all, it, like you said, it's comedy of errors with the fire and everything like that, and as soon as he kicked over the mop bucket that had I was like, oh God, people.
It's very Night of the Living Dead-ish, right? Like when they go out to get the gas, and just how everything that could go wrong goes wrong.
Yes, I think too, like this is one of those tropes too that gets used a lot in like an apocalyptic setting like this. Is most of the first few deaths that you get are just people are just nervous and a little bit stupid, a little bit clumsy, inexperienced. Like it's all that happened was he got a little scared and he tripped over the thing, and it made the whole bucket tip over. It was all gasoline, and he had something lit in his hand. I mean, it it was you couldn't have planned it if you tried.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just like, come on.
Okay, so I liked the bugs. I wasn't a fan of the like bigger bird thing because
Mm-hmm.
it felt very Jurassic Park to me. It looked kind of like a pterodactyl.
It
But
did, yeah.
I loved the bugs. I thought the bugs were much more I thought they were more menacing because they had the stinger on them. And obviously they stung Sally right away, and she had that reaction, and it was like they just seemed more menacing. The bigger bird one felt a little clumsier, like they were able to knock it down a little quicker. It mostly created havoc for like it was inside the store and flapping its wings and like knocked a bunch of shit down and whatever. Like it seemed like it was doing mostly that, and they were able to like because it was like there were two of them in there, I think, right? And they killed one and then later killed the other.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the bug things were a lot harder because they were smaller and could move around a lot easier. They weren't they the in the space of the store they could move around a little better. And there's just something about really large bugs.
Yes, yes.
I don't know what it is. Like and like I said, it felt very Fallout. You know what I mean? And this is years and years and years before Fallout. But with the big, huge roaches on Fallout, this is like it's just unsettling to take something that is normally something I could smush with my thumb. Like
Mm-hmm.
a bug like that if it
Mm-hmm.
were the normal size. Because it looked like it was kind of modeled after mosquito or some other kind of small stinging bug like that. So it's like this is something that you could just clap your hands and you've smacked it or whatever, and now this thing is going to kill you.
Yes.
It's going to bite you or sting you or do whatever. And it was really well done. And it was also another thing that was great about it is it's unexpected. You weren't expecting there to be things like this because what did we see? We saw tentacles, and we saw what's his face get pulled all the way up into the air.
Mm-hmm.
So we're expecting either something tall, something really tall and octopus like is really like what those are the images we've been given so far. And then these bugs come. And it's like that and they're right up against the window, so it's I thought it was really well done. That whole sequence was the only thing that was better in terms of creep factor was probably the spider moment that happens in a little later. But yeah, I thought overall this whole sequence was really, really well done.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And it didn't look very CGI-y, you know what I mean? And considering it was like an early CGI moment, it held up fairly well, It was obvious that they were fake, but it's it is what it is. It wasn't like pixely or anything, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't, it just they still held up pretty well,
Well,
It was good.
and interestingly enough, the locusts, a lot of them were puppets. The only time when they became CGI was when they were flying. And just I hate to be a name dropper. Robert De Niro told me that, never be a name dropper.
Yeah.
But one of the puppeteers on this movie, a certain gentleman that we have met named Gregory Nicotero. Like I said, after the tentacle sequence, almost all of the things in the mist that we see, there was practical stuff. There were a lot of puppet work done here that they enhanced with some CGI occasionally.
Nice.
And just put a capper on it. When I love the bit when the bug takes off from Marcia Gay Harden and flies away, and it's flapping its wings, and you see it like blowing her hair. because it's, you know, it's generating that little bit of burst of wind or whatever. I thought that was just a really cool moment that obviously, you know, some grip off stage, like put a fan up to her face and, you know,
Yeah.
blasted her with a real quick burst of it. But it really sells that whole scene. But yeah, the like a lot of the bug work in that, and even the big like pterodactyl bird thing, those were puppets for big chunks of it that you know, like when you see like they set one of them on fire, like they actually use the torch and it works, and I think David uses it and burns one of them, and then it's kind of flying around while it's on fire as it's sort of dying. That was all real that they you know that they did in that on that set. So yeah, so there was definitely some puppet work there.
Yeah. I didn't know it was puppets.
Yeah.
They were really well done.
Yeah.
I appreciate that when they do something that's more practical like that.
I do too.
Yeah. There's so much more artistry involved. And don't get me wrong, doing computer generated images is also an art. I just, you know, I'm so used to being in theater. I'm used to the tactile, you know, the thing that you can reach out and touch. And I know as actors, they probably had an easier time acting to something that they could see. You know, it just is. It's so much easier to get there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always appreciate the artistry of, you know, creating something in the real world that that the actors can react to, as opposed to just, oh, okay, we're gonna set this tennis ball on a string, and you got to look at it and just imagine that it's this flying locust thing with all these eyes and stingers, and it's coming at you. You know, it's like, okay, so
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, sorry, Sally, you
sorry,
gone.
So, yep.
Sally out. So does my number 5 happen before? Does your number 6 happen before or after the pharmacy run?
I think that it's after the pharmacy run.
Okay, so let's talk the pharmacy run.
Yes, another. I mean, again, just like they have the, you know, these set piece moments where each one you're like, oh my god, and the next one you're like, oh my god, and the next one you're like, oh my god. So this is where I think it gets the creepiest for me.
I agree. So they decide, they're like, okay, we know we can go X amount as far as we, you know, is because based off of how far the biker dude made it before there was some type of, you know, attack, they know that they can make it, you know, a certain amount of feet. And within that amount of feet is the entrance to the pharmacy, which is apparently just next door. And so this is all because the dude that was doused in flames, he's in a lot of pain. And they're like, okay, if he's going to survive, he needs, first of all, he needs pain medication, but they need antibiotics or else he's going to die. And it's not a bad idea to have those things on hand anyway. So they do what any good person should do in an apocalyptic moment, is you got to go raid the pharmacy and grab some stuff. So the surprising part is when they get there and they make it, which is great, but the doors were left propped open. And so there's nobody in there. They were expecting, and that's one of the things they say as they leave, you know, when David's trying to tell his son, you know, we need this, we need the medicine for the guy that's hurt, and, you know, we got to do this. And then he makes a good point. He's like, there could be other people over there that are stuck, and we need to try and help them too. Yeah, well, that didn't happen because there's nobody there. You know, it's, the doors are open, and but you can also see that it looks like there's some kind of dust or something all over the place, and you can't quite put your finger on what it is yet. But it looks like something's been like everywhere. There's like some kind of dusty, you know. So they jump over the counter, they get behind there, and they grab what they need. There's a special, you know, antibiotic for burn victims that they grab that someone knew about, and they also get some antibiotics. As they get antibiotics, they get painkillers, they throw everything in a bag, and they're getting ready to leave. Meanwhile, of course, instead of just staying still while the others were getting the drugs, the other people decided this is an opportune moment to poke around, which was their first mistake. And when they poke around, they came upon, oh my lord, and in the absolute, exactly like that moment in Aliens, when they come upon all of the colonists that have been cocooned. This is very similar. They, Jim, Bill Sadler, bumps into, and he's actually grabbed. He bumps, but he's grabbed from, there's a person that's been cocooned, and he gets grabbed by it, and he freaks out, and oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And it turns out, you see when they all come rushing around, they do a good job. They kick the helmet, so it's the MP, the military police guy who we saw much earlier in the movie, who was there talking to the other army guys, yada yada. And so the MP is there, and he's all cocooned, and he's like, he's like, help me. And they come over, and they've got like the flashlight on him, and he says, I'm sorry. It's all our fault. It's all our fault. And they're trying to, like, because he's cocooned and he's like up in the air. So he's like raised off the ground, kind of like, when spiders, when they cocoon, they'll take and they'll wrap like a fly and hang it and put it like over to the side. So this is very similarly, it looks like they're cocooned in some kind of like webs or webbing or whatever. And we still don't see yet exactly. And then when he's like, it's all our fault, it's all our fault. And as a military person, this gives credence to the shit that we had heard earlier. Something happened, the military was involved, yada yada. And he's like, it's all our fault, it's all our fault. And then he says, oh, I can feel them.
I can feel them. Oh!
And then when they're trying to help him, they end up like pulling away like part of his jacket or shirt, and you can see all of these bubbles on his skin.
Yeah.
And
yes,
those
you
bubbles
do.
are all filled with baby spiders.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And so they have used, so then you take that and then your brain explodes a little bit and you realize, because he's not the only one, there's another couple of people that are there. And you have to extrapolate and assume the people that were in the pharmacy when everything hit, they are all here.
Yep.
They are cocooned up in the ceiling right now. So gotta figure like what, maybe 10 or 15 people, give or take. But he's got these bubbles and they're about to pop, and you can see that it's filled with spiders. And you just have to assume every person that is there has the same thing.
Same thing,
and they're all getting ready to pop. And you're like, oh, this is a big old nope. And it's time to effing go.
Yep, that's it. Let's go, boys. Let's get out of here. Yeah, time to go. Yeah.
And there's this really great action sequence where all of a sudden it becomes clear. Oh my God, we've got to. And they don't have any weapons. They don't have anything with them.
They have some. They made some makeshift spears where they like tape knives sticks to like and I think Ollie has his gun.
Yes.
With him, but you're right. They're certainly not armed very well for battle. Yeah.
Not amazingly, no. It's what they could use is probably a
flamethrower,
like a flamethrower or whatever, and that's not what they have. How would they have even known they would need something like that?
To be fair, Frances Sternhagen, who plays Irene, who's like the old school marm, she kind of makes a flamethrower.
Yes, she does.
A little bit later. Yeah, good on her.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. I think David has the axe that Ollie used. I think he takes that. That's his weapon that he takes in there. But yeah, they go in there. And again, they're not trained. They're not soldiers. They're a bunch of people that are thrown into this thing that they're doing at the last minute. So yeah, they had no shot. But then when like the mommy and daddy spiders show up and start shooting webs at them, and so like you see David, and he's like watching as the MP is shrieking, and like the little baby spiders are starting to pop out of his cheeks and his chest, and it's horrible. The mommy, the daddy spider shows up and shoots, and this web goes like right past his head, and he kind of ducks out of the way, and they track the web, and it falls onto the floor, and literally the floor starts like steaming because it's like acid webs or something. So it's like
great, just what we need.
It's like we needed a bigger challenge, and so now they have to avoid it. And so then all these big daddy mama spiders show up and are shooting webs, and people are just barely getting out of the way, and Dan Dale barely gets out of there, and so on. But one of the guys that went in, which is like the brother of the dude that is horribly, horribly burned, he like the web hits him in one of his legs about the middle of his thigh. And I mean, like, first of all, his genes just disintegrate when it hits there. And then it's almost like a sequence, again, going back to the Alien franchise, where you get some of the alien's blood on you. It just starts eating through you. And he is just screaming his head off. It's so painful. They like get out a belt and give him a tourniquet, and they're trying to drag him out. And by the time they get back to the door, he's dead.
Yeah.
And
so fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so it's like, not only is it painful and acidic, but it's like obviously poisonous. I mean, it's just, these, whatever these things are, they're just unbelievably lethal. And they're let me just ask you, how big, what would you say, like one of the big mommy or daddy spiders? Would you say like, I don't know, like 2-3 feet before you get to the legs?
Yeah, easy. Yeah. Absolutely.
And again,
sure.
they have heads with faces.
They do, like faces that can, like, look at you.
Yeah.
Gross.
Oh yeah. And literally like we said, like a big mama spider's right by the door, and they're like, what do we do? And they're afraid they're gonna get webbed, and then Irene just steps up with a spray can of bug spray, which I thought was a nice little touch. And she has like one of those like grill lighters, the really long necked lighters, and she does the makeshift flamethrower and just torches it, and they basically they get out of there. But again, the one guy's dead, and of course everybody in the pharmacy is dead as well. And again, just an unbelievable scene, right, where you're like, oh my god, what is going on?
What is going on? Yes.
Yeah. And I love the way it starts too, because when they get to the pharmacy, they walk in and like the door is like propped open. Yes. And as soon as they go in there, you're like, well, everybody, if there was anybody in here, they're all dead.
It doesn't look good to start out with. Yes.
And somebody, I can't remember who, whether it was Dan or Ollie or somebody, like actually points out like they left the door open, and it's like, get out of there. What are you doing? Yeah.
The smart thing would have been, it's on the other side of the counter. Go on the other side of the counter, and then like the remaining guys should have stayed by the door to like be the lookout and make sure nothing happens. But these guys, they're new to apocalyptic end of the world events, and they don't know. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They have never watched a movie before.
Yeah, they clearly have never seen a horror movie, because they are breaking every rule all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's they are semi-successful in that they get the drugs, but they don't, they lose 2 people.
I think 2 people get killed. Yeah.
But they do run back over to the store, and get let back in again.
Yeah, I think another dude, he gets like webbed like right in the face.
Yeah.
if I remember. And yeah, and there's a scene where like after they leave, they cuts back and you see them, and like the spiders are like the little baby spiders are all crawling on him and starting to eat him. And I mean, it's super super creepy. Yeah. But anyway, so they manage the survivors get back, and they did get the drugs for the guy.
Yes.
So yeah.
So I think next up then, chronologically, is your number 6 then.
Yes,
Scene.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And so, I think like David like literally like passes out when he gets back.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and he's like, oh my God, how long have I been out? And they're like, oh, like 6 hours, And so, and it's just he's dealing with the stress, like it just overwhelmed him and he just shut down. And by the time he wakes up, the burn victim has died.
Yes.
And Ollie's like, we were too late. We couldn't get him the stuff he needed, before and so he died. And we see Mrs. Carmody's group is growing and getting stronger, including, and I love this, Jim, Bill Sadler is.
Yes.
Who at the beginning is mocking her as a crackpot. He is now, like number one disciple, right?
Yeah,
and
no kidding.
Just has totally bought in, and the group is growing, and it's getting to the point where like they maybe are in the majority of people in the store are now following her, and so David kind of pulls his little group together.
Mm-hmm.
And this exchange is my favorite scene in the whole movie because I think it just sums up about what we've talked about on The Walking Dead for years and years and years, about just what I like to think of as just how rotten people really are.
Yes.
And he basically is like, he tells everyone we have to leave. We have to get out of here if we're going to survive. And of course they're like, yeah, but the stuff's out in the mist. And he's like, we'll try for my car. We'll drive it as far as we can go to get out of here. And first of all, this raises a really interesting question because somebody kind of brings up the idea of, we don't know how far this mist goes.
Right.
And
right.
What if it's just everywhere? Like no, you know what I mean? So like maybe there is no safe place, but he's like, it doesn't matter. We have to leave. And it's not just the things in the mist we got to worry about. And they're like, what do you mean? And he's like, points out, because at the other end of the store, Mrs. Carmody is doing a sermon about Revelations and the 7 seals and all this stuff. And her disciples are eating it up. And he's like, yeah, we got a real problem here because it's not going to be too long before she's going to start picking out who the group has to sacrifice. So to appease the crazy gods that are outside, so the rest of them doesn't die. And you know who she's going to pick? It's going to be us.
Yes. Yes.
And again, when you're watching it and we've seen what's been going on and everything, the audience, you're like, yes, absolutely. You guys got to get the hell out of there.
Yes.
This is not going to end well.
Yes.
But everybody rejects it. Everybody is like, that's not true. People, no, they're not going to do that. They're not going to go that far. And Amanda, which of course is Andrea, as we know her. She is very, very, very vocally like, nope, I think you're wrong. I don't think people are like that. People are civilized. And David responds with this line, and I love this line. I just think it is so perfectly worded to describe what happens in apocalypse scenarios. And that he goes, sure, as long as the machines are working and you can dial 911, but you take those things away, you throw people into the dark, you scare the shirt out of them, and there's no more rules, you'll see how primitive they get.
Yes.
And that, I mean, that just sums up the entire Walking Dead show, right? And that I would say, I mean, there's got to be at least one, but it may be only one. But almost every group of people that our main characters meet on The Walking Dead are crazy nut jobs that have fish tanks and hats and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they're willing to do what you have to do to survive.
Right.
And the rational, civilized people, they're all dead. You know, and what's great in the scene, and I didn't write it down, but Amanda / Andrea, when he gives her that line, she still is like, nope, I don't believe you. I don't think you're right. And she turns to Ollie, who we've been saying all along, Ollie is kind of like the rock of this whole movie,
Yes.
right? He is grounded. He is rational. He doesn't get excited or he doesn't get hysterical. He's, a clear thinker. And she turns to him and goes, Ollie, please tell him that he's wrong. And Ollie like doubles down and goes like, basically as a species, we're insane.
Yes.
And he, says, you put us in a room with more than one of us and we immediately divide into groups and start thinking up ways to kill the others. And,
yes.
and again, he's not wrong,
He's not.
And I mean, just look at like the normal, like regular disasters that we have encountered in the last 30 years and look at how awful people become. Look at Katrina and what happened there when the lights went out and there was no more police. And again, it's just so I love this scene and I would love to get your opinion on that whole sequence.
It was great too because I felt like it felt very prophetic because here's Darabont who, I mean, he's done some really great stuff, but within like the horror community, he's really well known for he's responsible for getting The Walking Dead like into this like gritty zone of you could say that once it was taken away from him it became much more commercialized and like they're there for but he like those first 6 episodes are some of the best television that's ever been made and he's a reason because of it. So you can see there's elements in this conversation that lend to exactly the kind of tribalism that you see in Walking Dead and shows and movies that are like that. In the apocalypse, or any apocalyptic movie, people dealing with like a disaster, anytime you get people scared and in an enclosed space for any length of time, the stuff that David said is totally true. People are generally nice, except when, and you were talking about like Katrina and whatever, but I mean, look what happened during the pandemic.
Right.
People immediately were like, there were so many people online that were like, you don't need Advil. You don't need, there's no reason
to hoard toilet paper.
And people fucking did it anyway because they didn't care, And
it's survival.
Exactly. And the people that were protesting the nurses that were blocking their way so they couldn't get to work. It was like I'm not gonna lie, like until I knew that there were a lot of people in this world that are selfish and don't think of their fellow man very often, but I didn't know there were quite so many of them until the pandemic. I think that did such a great job of doing exactly this thing. As soon as you take away these layers of society, people show you who they really are. It would,
Yeah, and David, does kind of point out that, look, they're scared. Right. And when you're scared and you're suddenly thinking about, am I going to make it out of here? Yeah. All of the rules
kind
of society, that the things that we kind of take for granted most of the time. Yeah, you're right. They do. They suddenly are not at all important ever.
Right.
And yeah, it's just, like I said, I love the way he expresses that concept here, and just when he says you'll see how primitive they get, and you're right, not just prophetic in terms of Darabont and what he's going to do down the road here with Walking Dead and all of the craziness that we saw on that show, but just foreshadowing for this movie.
Yeah,
because you fast forward like 15 minutes and it's on. So
yeah, and people are like, the thing is people seem reasonable and then 20 minutes later they're told a different thing and they're scared, so they believe that different thing, and then they don't want to die and they don't want to make the wrong decision, so they go along with the thing that seems ridiculous, but they can't explain it. They feel like it, like you said, there's this tribalism that comes in, and it's like, well, part of that tribalism is wanting to be a part of the tribe and wanting to, you know, um, do the right thing, say the right thing, and survive. It's a survival
yeah,
tactic
right.
for sure.
Right. And yeah, it's definitely this, survival, strength in numbers, and you don't want to do anything to get outed from the group, because when you're with the group, you got a better chance.
Exactly.
And if the group is doing crazy ass stuff, well, you're going to do crazy ass stuff.
Yeah, and when the rules are out the window, what constitutes crazy ass stuff? Is there
Right.
even a bar for that anymore? Hard to say.
Yeah,
And who's to say who implements that bar? Who says where the bar is? And why are you the one that gets to say that? I'm looking out for myself here. And you can tell in those moments that all those people, they were drawn in by her because they were really very, like, yes, scared. They were looking out for themselves. They didn't care about all the other people in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I love it. I think my favorite moment in the whole movie was that quiet little speech, right?
Yeah. Well, it lends right into the next line for you.
Yeah.
Because, there's this whole, Mrs. Carmody's having this, you could easily say she's having a tent revival.
Oh, it is. Yeah. All she needs are the snakes.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think even someone name drops, what's it called? Who's the guy from the Drink the Kool-Aid? What was that guy's name?
Jim Jones. Jim Jones.
I feel like somebody said Jim Jones.
David
at some
does.
point,
David points out it's a Jim Jones thing. Yeah, and my point. Yeah, again, and it's during that scene where we kind of, they cut away from David and them talking to what she's doing, and she's preaching, and she's got her little Bible, and she's definitely, she's totally in Revelations, right, and talking about the seven seals and the angels and all this stuff, and of course mentioning the locusts that are in there, referencing what the big bugs thing happened, and like you said, all these people are like, man, this woman I thought was a nut job, she actually seems to be the what's going on.
Right.
And she starts saying that they need to expatiate or expiate, right? Is that it? Expiation is the word. Yeah. And then it's great because Darabont does this camera move away from her over to Bill Sadler, and he is just leading the chorus going expatiate, and he's just clapping. I mean, he is like a 100% true believer at this point. And then it cuts back over to the little group of David and everybody, and Ollie kind of looks at them and goes, "Welcome to Sesame Street. Today's word is expatiation." Or expiation,
Which is great because, like, if you had to look it up, because I did.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. They could have just said, because it means atonement. It'd be atoning for sins, right? Which is what she was saying. You could figure it out by what she was saying. Also, you've heard the word like 30 times because you've seen this movie multiple times, so you get it. But could they have just said atonement? Sure, but isn't it great to have it be a word that nobody else would just say off the top of their head? It's got to be something different, something that sticks out, that makes her seem kind of off her rocker, as it were, because if she were sane, she'd be saying like normal words. And in this case, she's not saying normal words. She's using the most arcane, version of atonement. She's, it's almost like she got a thesaurus in her purse,
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a great scene, and of course, from our pal Ollie, who's really got his head on straight, that's for sure.
Yeah. So they decide that they're going to wait till the morning and they're going to try for the car, and they get, I think he says the car can hold 8, and I think they get like 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
and basically they're like, they're like, look, we would rather die out in the mist trying to get away from here than stay here with these nut jobs, because they're gonna,
Yeah.
And we should point out too that the soldier, Jessup, which played by Sam Witwer, who is
Yep.
great in this movie. And I don't know if I think you were with me, but we met Sam Witwer at
Oh.
C2E2. Sam Witwer, he went on to be the voice of Darth Maul in all of the Star Wars cartoons. So Clone Wars and Rebels, and there's a new Darth Maul series that he's doing the voice for, and I believe even in some of the live action stuff they've brought him in to be the voice, and really cool dude. And I when we met him and I had him sign a Clone Wars thing that I have, and I specifically asked him about the Mist, about what was it like, and he was just like, "Oh man, it was so cool," because he was super young, one of his first acting jobs, really, big time things, and he loved every minute of it. He said it was just such a great experience. He really enjoyed it. So very cool guy. But anyway, in the movie, there were him and 2 of his army friends, and the other 2 guys, they hang themselves. And the reason we find this out is that David's like, look, the MP said it was their fault. We need to talk to the army guys and find out what that means. And so those 2 guys are dead, but they find him. And then, of course, Jim, Bill Sadler, sees them like going into the loading area and follows them in and overhears what Jessup has to say about what's going on up at the army base, and he drags him out and throws him in front of the group and says, "It's his fault, they did it."
Yeah.
And we get this kind of, he doesn't really know, but he's like, I hear things, and they talks about how they were doing some kind of experiment. They believe in other dimensions, and they tried to create a window so they could see into them. And of course, Mrs. Carmody's like, maybe your window turned into a door, and but they start grabbing at him, and one of the guys, I think, like, he looks like he's like a butcher at the store. He like stabs him like 3 or 4 times with like a Michael Myers sized knife right in the gut, and then they throw him outside and lock the door, and
I know.
And he's just like, please let me in, and they're all staring at him. And then, this like, I don't know, 30-foot tall thing kind of walks up to him and just, with one of its like lobster claw arms, reaches down and grabs him and just, crushes him and eats him and kills him. And so he's gone, but, the end result though is that we kind of get a little bit more about what could have caused all of this, and
right.
it's sort of like, okay, it's kind of the old idea of science out of control. That
Right.
science did something that maybe they shouldn't have. What's the line in Jurassic Park? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And now
Right.
here we are, right? And so yeah, but that I just wanted to mention that with Sam Witwer. But
You did great.
Yeah, what is your next point there?
Okay. So they do get their supplies.
Oh, right. That's what I
and-
was gonna say. Man, I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. They Ollie like gets some groceries in some bags that they're gonna take with, and they're gonna wait till morning to go. And I think after the army guy dies, doesn't Mrs. Carmody say like, they will leave us alone now tonight?
Yeah.
And so
Awful.
Oh yeah, and so everybody's kind of sleeping, and so they get up and they kind of make their silent run to the door, and they get to where the groceries are, and they're not there. And then there's Mrs. Carmody sitting in a chair holding like a little knife, and she's like going somewhere. you know,
stealing supplies
stealing
or
our
whatever. Yeah,
food. Yeah, and they're
yeah,
just
yeah,
like, just
yeah.
let us leave. We don't want any trouble. And she's like, well, we can't let you leave. And he's like, hey, we want to let you live how you want to live. You should give us the same privilege. And she's not having any of it. And then the rest of the group comes around them and surrounds them. And eventually she's like, we need to sacrifice the kid, so his
Yeah.
son. And then she points at Amanda, Andrea, and says, and your whore. which
Oh,
which
lovely.
she points out in the movie she's married, right? So
Yeah.
there's no romantic interest between them at all in this movie that we
Right.
see, right? And we see at the beginning he's happily married to his wife. You know what I mean? It's not,
Yes.
there's no hanky or panky yet. She's like, and your whore, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good. And then
Yeah.
Ollie steps forward again. Ollie's the Rock, and he does something I think that everybody in the audience is applauding, without a doubt.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. He does what well, first he shoots her
Hmm.
in the stuff.
Yeah.
And can we just talk about how weird it is that she's drinking milk?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
Because at that point it can't be good anymore.
you would think it's probably starting to turn, and it's like one of those like glass milk bottles,
Yeah.
type thing. So it's a very strange choice, but I think it totally fits her. That, like, of course she's going to be drinking probably sour milk.
Yeah, it felt very you know how like these days there's a lot of people that are have started doing the raw milk
Mm-hmm.
thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's yes, it's probably sour too, but my brain immediately went to, yeah, she's a raw milk person.
Yes.
That tracks. It's perfect.
Yeah. Pasteurization is just, that's an insult to God. Yeah.
But what's great is, so it's off-putting that she's drinking the milk to begin with, but she's got the glass bottle and she's holding it, and she makes all these pronouncements, we're going to take the boy and we're going to do whatever, and there's a scuffle and everything, and in the middle of the scuffle, Ollie's got like a couple more bullets left,
Mm-hmm.
and he shoots her in the stomach, and it hits the bottle, and so we get this great effect with like the milk bottle exploding, and she's shot, and there's this moment of like, oh my god, this just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then he makes a point, and he follows through on the theme of the podcast.
He
and
do.
He shoots her in the head.
He aims for the head and, yeah, just blows her brains out. Yeah. And you're right. When the gunshot goes out, literally, like, everybody like stops. And they're
Yes.
just like, wait, what just happened? And Marcia Gay Harden, she kind of almost has a surprised look too, like, whoa.
I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
that.
And more like, wait, you broke my bottle of milk. And then she
Yeah.
kind of looks down, and you see like the red starting to spread on her blouse where she was gut
Right.
shot, yeah. But oh yeah, when he shoots her in the head, I can't remember if people cheered in the theater. Maybe that's just me thinking they did, but let's just go with it. And yeah, people cheered in the theater. But Ollie, they then start moving to the door to get out, and Ollie goes to David, and he's like, I'm sorry, David. I didn't have any choice. And he's like, I know, Ollie. That's why I thanked you.
That was a great line. I was going to include it, but I was like, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh
But
yeah.
Oh, so fantastic, because he's like, he's like, I didn't. I'm so sorry I shot her, and he's like, thank you.
He's like, thank you,
like,
Ollie. Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it if there wasn't any other way. He's like, I know, that's why I said thank you.
That's-
It's just such a fantastic line.
And he's doing it because he's like, we got to go. We got to get out now before the crowd recovers, And so they do, and they make it out, and they, of course, in the mist, they kind of get split up. And so Bud and the old dude that had the shotgun and somebody else, they get separated. Oh, Myron, I think they get separated, and they all meet bad ends. They don't get very far. The spiders get them or whatever, and then Ollie makes it to the car first. Somehow he just sprints ahead. And he, it's like, this is like the one moment where Ollie's not The Rock.
Yeah.
Because he gets there, and the plan is whoever gets there first, open all the doors, so when everybody else gets there, we can just pile in and go, which is a good idea. But then he opens the doors, and then he just kind of stands there like, well, we're all set, and it's like, no, get in the car. What are you, an idiot? And so, and a big beastie comes and grabs him, and again, he dies a horrible death. And so basically it's David, it's Amanda, it's David's son, it's Irene, and it's Dan Dale are the five people that make it into the car. But they do retrieve Ollie's gun, because it falls, he drops it and it falls and lands right on the hood. And that's a really tense scene when David decides to try and open the door and get the handgun, but they do. And so then literally they're like, we're just going to drive as far as the gas tank we have. And I know that's your next point, that they go, but let's talk about Ollie. Let's talk about Ollie.
Yeah. Well, first, when they go running out and when Ollie gets snagged, my first thought was, oh no, because he really had make it to the end energy because he was so resourceful, but he didn't.
He did. Yeah, he just didn't. Well, and I think it's just, again, it's Darabant's way of saying that, look, it doesn't matter. You can be the most careful, the most grounded dude in this situation. Nope. If it's your time, it's your time.
And it's his time. And he was taken by one of those taller sort of beings. Yeah. And it was just like, it was awful because his when his gun falls on the hood, there's like a bunch of blood with it too.
Yeah.
So when David is trying to get the gun, he's reaching out, and that's creepy to begin with, because you're like, of course something's going to come up and, crunch his hand or something, but he's reaching for it, and it's like in this like big spatter of blood, which is clearly Ollie's blood.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my only reaction to that was,
no! Yeah.
And then they do go from there, and kind of foolhardy, but they stop at his house to confirm.
He wants to go back to see what happened to his wife and hope that she survived. Yes, and
not only did she not survive, but they cocooned her outside the house. She's like hanging from the eaves, like right next to the window.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he feels all guilty because they must have been able to get in. Even if she had the door shut, they would have been able to get in because the tree broke through the window.
Right.
And it needed to be fixed, and he didn't fix it before he left. He just went into town to get supplies. But you don't know. You didn't know you were going to get invaded by spiders.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it like looking back, at it, hindsight and all that, clearly Mom should have gone with to the store.
Right, of course.
But again, you're right. At the beginning, when you don't know you're in a horror movie, no, she's going to stay there and try and patch up what she can and be there to, in case, somebody shows up or whatever, I mean, it just makes sense, right? And so it's not unusual, but yeah, he clearly feels very guilty. In that she's literally cocooned in right next to the window that got smashed in, that he was going into town to get stuff to patch up, and so on. So, and it's interesting too that the son is like sleeping through all of this. So he,
thank God, right?
Because he couldn't handle it. I mean, that kid, he would have been catatonic after that. But yeah, so then after that, then it's just, we're just going to drive as far as we can.
Yeah, and I love the that he says that. He's like, let's just see how far this fuel takes us. And in hindsight, could you have stopped somewhere and put gas in it like super fast?
I think you certainly could try, but I think the lesson of this movie is, if you don't have to go out into the mist, you don't.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I just felt so bad. It's what are you gonna do?
Well,
So yeah, so
there's also the other thing too, is if there's no power, are the gas pumps even going to work too? So it's
who
not, it might
knows?
not be as
Yeah,
easy as just pulling up to a pump and doing it. You might have to, more steps
that
might be involved. So yeah.
and what's funny is when we get to now that we've gotten to the end and the final moment,
Hmm.
one of the things I thought when they ran out of gas was I was like, oh yeah, like Walking Dead. So just find another car
Hmm.
and siphon the gas.
Yeah.
Which they might have been able to do. They might have been able to do that if they drove like right up alongside a car
Hmm.
and siphoned a little bit of gas while they still had some.
Yeah.
And they might have been able to do that, and done it like safely, as it were. But they were very like, let's full steam ahead. Let's try and make it as far as we can. And they ran out of gas, and they're sitting there, and they know now like there's no hope for them. There's nothing around them. The mist is like wherever it is that they ran out of gas. It doesn't look like there's any buildings or structures or other cars or vehicles. There's literally nothing.
Yeah.
There could be something close by, but it's obscured by the mist. There's nothing close by to where they are, like presently, like right there on the road.
Hmm.
And there was a prophetic moment earlier in the film when his son Billy is like, "Don't let the monsters get me.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
you'll make sure the monsters don't get me."
Give me your best promise or something, he says. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so sad. But it comes back to haunt him because now he's got this option. He's got a gun, and he looks in and he opens it up, and there's 4 bullets. And they all like nod and realize, they all understand that they're gonna, off themselves so that they don't have to deal with the pain and the suffering and the, what is to come. They won't be alive for it. And so you see like the camera kind of pans. It's not inside the car. You don't see it happen. You just hear like the gunshots.
Hmm.
And he says there's only 4, and he's like, I'll think of something, is
Yeah.
what he said. So David's going to be the one that doesn't take the bullet.
Well,
And so
doesn't Andrea go, but there are 5 of us, because he takes the bullets out. And he's like, well, we got 4 bullets, and she's like, but there are 5 of us. What the fuck?
and I was
What the
like,
hell?
you're so smart with math. Look at you.
Yeah, and and also we should point out that right before that, this, I don't know, 200-300 foot tall thing, like literally like walks by them, and I mean it's so
Mhm.
heavy, every time its feet moves, like the whole car jumps
Yes.
from, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And out of all the things in the mist, this is like the most benign because it totally ignores them. It's just sort of
Yeah.
like, I'm just out for a walk, you
It
know?
was very like, it gave me War of the Worlds vibes
Yeah.
because of the way they were so tall.
And so yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was very like a brontosaurus, from
Mm.
like Jurassic Park or something, where it's like, yeah, it's like a plant eater. It's not going to try and kill you because it's not interested in you, but it's still, I mean, again, it's got to be like 200 feet tall. I mean, it's huge, And
Yeah.
I think when that thing walks by, that kind of seals it for all those people in the car of like, we got no chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
That most likely the plan, the hope was that they would drive until they got out of the mist, like it would, there was an end to it, and they would get out and it would be clear, and they run out of gas, the mist shows no sign of going away, and now there's these massive things. It's like, yeah, we're done. There's nothing. All we're gonna do is sit here until we die, either be starved to death or something shows up and kills us. There's just no way. And then that's when all of them, when he takes the gun out, they don't say it, they all kind of give him the nod, like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Sad.
yeah, it really is, yeah, and literally he's like, you know what, I'll do it, and I will figure out a way afterwards,
Yeah,
to
I'll figure something
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
you're right, and you get that shot from outside the car, and you can't really see into it, but you just hear kind of the muffled gunshots, and it's bang bang, the two, it's the son and Amanda Andrea in the front, and then there's a little pause, and then bang bang, and it's the two people in the back, and
Yep.
and then he like loses it, which I totally understand. I mean, incredibly traumatic moment. You just killed all of these people at close range, including your son, and people that you liked and wanted to see survive, right? And I mean, he's like, ah, I mean, he's just like, I mean, he's losing it.
He
And
really is. Yeah.
and then he gets out of the car and he just like stands there and then he's just like, okay, come on, let's go, and then he
Yeah.
starts
Yeah.
yelling like, come on, and
Yeah, and you can tell he's like yelling for like the creatures to come and get him.
exactly, yeah,
Don't make me wait.
right,
Come and get
here
me.
it is, free lunch, come get me, I want this to end, type thing. And then he hears the sound. And again, this is the part where so many people who saw this movie back in '07 was like, I hate this movie.
Yeah, yeah. And the sound, it's funny because when the really big, sort of brontosaurus-y looking creature is moving around and there's a lot of bumping and, jolting them up and down because it's so heavy,
Mhm.
it gives off a noise, which is kind of like a horn, kind of a
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
whatever. So it makes a sound, but then coming out of the mist is something, and he hears the sound, and it sounds a lot like that.
Hmm.
And he looks up, and it's not the creature; it's a tank
It's
coming
a tank.
towards him.
Yep.
And it's surrounded by a bunch of soldiers that are covered up in, they're all wearing
The chemical
protective
stuff.
gear.
Yep.
Yep. And they've got like flamethrowers, and they're actively, like, if there's one of those like mosquito-y flies, they're hitting that with the blowtorch and whatever. So
Mhm.
this tank goes by, and there's all these soldiers, and they don't say a word to him.
No.
They're just like, okay, another survivor, great. And they keep going, and then there's there's like a truck with a bunch of people in it in there, and you're like, oh, look, survivors. And then as it rolls by, Melissa McBride is right there.
And her two kids, and she gives him that look.
Ha ha! I made it.
That's
Ha
right.
ha!
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And also that it literally that the first armored vehicle that comes out, the first tank, it like literally emerges from the mist past him.
Yeah, it's
But then
so cool.
it really is, yeah. But then immediately after that, the mist dissipates behind it,
Yes,
and so
that's the also thing.
and he can see, and there's like literally a whole military convoy of Hummers and the big trucks and more armored vehicles, and then above them are helicopters flying, attack helicopters that are armed to the teeth. And like you said, you see there are guys with flamethrowers that are killing the spiders and the bugs, and they're sort of like wiping it all out. And it's like brilliant sunshine now, and suddenly the mist is
Yeah.
gone, and David is like, what did I just do?
Yep. Yep.
It's like, if we would have if I would have like said, let me go out and take a leak and think about this and then come back and we'll decide if I'm going to shoot you, we'd all be alive.
Yep.
I mean, literally, if he would have they would have just had more of a debate just for like a minute.
Yeah.
Is there any other option we could do, right? They would have all made it. And again, I mean, he literally falls to his knees and is just screaming in agony, at what he had to do. And yeah, and get this kind of this great choral music is playing. It's very kind of sad, dirgy kind of music.
Mhm.
And as he's sitting there screaming his head off, the military, like you said, they just pass him right by. And like
Roll right by.
I think a couple of soldiers kind of stop and are looking at him, and I think you would assume they're like, "Sir, are you okay?" But they don't say anything, and there's no sound, and it's just him screaming, and then literally it just fades to black, and we roll the credits.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that, man.
I know. It's unbelievable. And
Yeah.
yeah. So
Uh,
I have to ask, ending, obviously downer, obviously
yes.
warms my cold dead heart. What
As I
would
put in my notes, what an uplifting ending
Yes.
with like the big surprise face emoji.
Yes, I, I,
Yeah.
I like it, but I think we should get your thoughts on it. Were you obviously you were not expecting it, but did it sit well with you, or were you like, I don't know?
Honestly, I'm okay with it. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned while on here or before, but I know I said it before, but I can't remember if I said it while we were recording too. But I haven't read the book, so I didn't have an attachment to the source material
Hmm.
one way or another. So A, I wasn't expecting it, but B, I'm okay with a bleak ending. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of movies, you know, it would be like, okay, we'll do this. And he literally goes to put the gun to someone's temple, and that's when the tank would roll forward. You know what I mean? Like, so many movies would have that unbelievable ending. This is sadly a lot more believable for, you know, not everybody gets rescued in the end. That's just not the way it works. Um, I'm I like an ambiguous ending, and I'm perfectly fine with a bleak one. Uh, I I was I was surprised at how bleak it was, um, because it was like double bleak. I was saying to Steve before we started recording that what my expectation was when it happened, when he actually went through with shooting them, and then when he goes outside and he's yelling and he's like, come on, come and get me, and he hears the rustling and then there's the noise. I was like, that's a great way to just end it right there.
Hmm.
Because it's bleak, but you see, like, I don't want to say hopeful, but it's ambiguous. You don't know
Yeah,
what happens
right.
to David.
He
You just
he
know
could have made it.
something's coming. Could have made it, could have not, whatever. Um, but to have also shown that if they just waited, they would have been saved is like double bleak.
Oh,
Because
gut
it's
punch.
like yeah, the bleak and then the guilt. It's interesting. It's very rare that you see a movie be that much of a downer at the end. So I was fine with it. I was absolutely fine with it. Because it was surprising and it was really well done.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I
Mm.
did. I agree. I mean, this poor guy, right? It just
Oh god, yeah.
everything that he ultimately tried to do blows up in his face, and so
Literally.
on. Yeah,
Literally, yeah.
yeah. And just just to kind of finish the Stephen King version. um, they leave the store in the car, and in the book they try and go back to his house to see what happened to his wife, but they like can't get there. Like the road is like has all these fallen trees, and they can't find a way to get around them. So her fate is kind of undetermined in the movie or in the book, but I mean clearly it doesn't look good. And so
Right.
then they try and drive as far as they can, and they're going through this, the area, it's entirely mist-shrouded, and they, run past, kind of like we see in the movie. They see like, like the state trooper's car with the power pole on top of it, and there's the school bus that's kind of off to the side, and wrecked cars and things. They witness those kind of signs of catastrophe, and they see the mysterious creatures and so on. But at some point they find like a Howard Johnson's hotel, and they go
Mm-hmm.
inside for the night to sleep. And while they're doing that, David is like checking the radio to see if there's anything they can pick up. And it's like he kind of tunes into something, and he hears someone say Hartford, referring to Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so it's very vague. That's the only thing he hears, but he ends up thinking maybe that'll be safe if they can get there. And so
Right.
that's how the book ends, where they're still out there. They're still trying to make it, and they think there might be someplace safe.
Oh, interesting. So it does end with it's ambiguous, but still has a slightly hopeful. There's something to there's something to live for.
There's a shred of hope, although it's very faint. And obviously Darabont decided, he wanted to.
No thanks.
Yeah, he wanted to go way better. And I should point out that currently, right now, somewhere in Hollywood, I think with Warner Brothers, there is a new adaptation of The Mist in progress, and Mike Flanagan has been assigned to direct it, and he's written the screenplay for it. So that would be really interesting to see what his take on this would be. And also, and I'm sure you don't remember this, but back in 2017, there was a TV series on The Mist.
I did see that. Did you watch it?
I did not, because it was on Spike TV, and I did not get Spike TV at that point. So I've never looked for it afterwards. It only ran one season. But I've never seen it at all. But I thought that was interesting. And then this little tidbit, and I swear I am not making this up, okay? But in 1984, the book was adapted as a radio drama. And,
interesting.
And starring as David Drayton was Bill Sadler.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Is that not just crazy weird?
That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I've never heard it. I'm real curious to look it up, though. I don't know if it's available anywhere. You probably have to buy it, I would think. I don't think it would be online. But anyway, so there is a radio play version of it as well. So.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
My honorable mentions, I just included the Melissa McBride thing. She cannot keep her kid safe. And yet she did.
Well, and actually that was my last regular point, was never count out Melissa McBride.
Yeah.
I mean, like people around her drop like flies, but that woman is bulletproof. There is no doubt. So yeah.
Yes.
My honorable mentions is if you watch the credits, one of the people listed as a co-producer is Denise Huth, which we should totally remember. She was a Walking Dead producer for the entire run of the show. Yep. Obviously, somebody that Darabont brought with him. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it a little bit already, but the special effects for The Mist were done by K&B, which is of course Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger, and so those guys are there. And then the last thing, and I didn't write this down, but I just think it's really an interesting choice, is that when the movie ends and it goes to black and the credits roll, we kind of get initially this kind of choral funeral dirge kind of moaning song that is playing. But then when that ends about a minute or two into the credits, the rest of the credits, what you hear are helicopters flying by and vehicles driving past you. So it's like we're still right there by David and his car, and this convoy is driving past, and it's a weird choice, but it's interesting, I thought. So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I have any other points to chat about. Do you?
No, not at all.
All right. Well, we've said probably more than we should have, and gone on for way more than we should have, I'm sure. But we are going to go ahead and we'll take a quick break, folks. When we come back, we're going to discuss our little bits of listener feedback we received and what's coming up next on the podcast.
All right. So everyone, please stick around, because we will be right back.
Now there's about 20 of them out there.
What will we do?
Don't worry, we're safe in here. They'll never get in.
Why is it that in every zombie story, people always think that their safe haven is invulnerable?
I know. It's like, hello, the walkers are totally going to get in. You better get ready for it.
No! go!
Diane, get behind me! No, it's not stopping!
Do something, Jack!
And another thing, how come nobody in a zombie story has ever seen a zombie story?
Do you know how much time in human life would be saved if just one person in the group was up on the genre?
What do we do?
Aim for the head!
What?
Aim for the head!
You heard them. Aim for the head!
Quick, Diane, I think we should try and fix the barricades.
I think we should listen to them.
Now, that's the first good idea they've had all episode.
I still don't think they're gonna make it.
Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. Join hosts Diana and Steve as they recap and discuss the best of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and apocalyptic entertainment. Aim for the Head, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Hey there, this is Greg Nicotero, and you're listening to Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots, they really just don't work.
Hey there, everybody. We are back. We're going to jump right into our feedback we received, and then after that, we're going to chat about what's coming up on the podcast. First up, we have some feedback that, regrettably, I will fall on my sword and say I missed it. I absolutely missed it. And it
Damn
was,
you.
Damn you, Diana. And it was feedback on the final episode of Stranger Things, and also some thoughts on the season as a whole, which would have been a great time to talk about it last week, and it's a nice long email. It would have topped it off very well. So my apologies. It was an email we received from our listener, Rick Christian, via the email, and my apologies, Rick, and I promised, I followed up, and I said we'll talk about it this week, so here I am with it in there. So
Well
this is,
done.
I know, well done. So before we get talking about The Mist, let's backtrack a little, and here is some feedback from Rick regarding Stranger Things. He writes in and says, "Hello, target the temple people." Aim for the head, target the temple. I see what you did there, sir.
Eventually, I did too.
Yeah. He continues and says, "I will start by saying that my predictions for this season were way off. Excuse me. Not even close. I do think some of my ideas would have worked better." Well, there you go. A lot of people's ideas probably would have worked better. I agree with the inimitable Mr. Brownlee. Yes, and he put a little thing there just in case he didn't spell the name right. No, sir, you got that exactly correct.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so he agrees with Brownlee and says that the more distance I get from this season, the less I like it. See, in my experience it wasn't so much the distance, it was watching it multiple times. Once I watched it a little more and it sunk in a little more, I liked it more. But anyway, I totally understand, Rick. He says it was very clear that turning the Upside Down into a bridge was an invention just for this season, and it really made no sense. I mean, Hop was exploring the place for weeks and never came across the wall of flesh before. The military had never tried blowing a hole in it. Do you even know how the army works? If you can't go around it, go through it. The season was in desperate need of a single story editor. The rumors of Ross Duffer's ex, Lee Janik, having a lot of influence on the story before the divorce perhaps had some credence. And then he continues on by organizing his thoughts into good, bad, and ugly. He says, "The good. I did enjoy most of the performances, especially Brett Gelman stealing every scene he was in. And even though it is not likely to happen, I think Jamie Campbell Bower deserves an Emmy nomination for playing Henry Vecna with such a wide range of menace. I agree. The directing was top-notch, with a special nod to Frank Darabont." Frank Darabont! How apropos that we're discussing it while we talk about The Mist. The scenic design and building crew deserve an Emmy as well. The handling of Will's coming out scene was deftly done, even though Finn's acting talent is not up to reacting well. And I would agree with that. I think Finn Wolfhard's reaction face is very, huh? What?
Yeah. It's kind of like his just resting face, actually. So.
Okay, continues on, and he says, "The bad. Linda Hamilton was mostly wasted. That role could have been played by a community college actor and had the same impact. Eleven was similarly underutilized. Mostly, she was just there to murder. Mostly. Well done. I agree with both of those points. I think they were, but I think we've talked about this with Walking Dead. Once you get to a gajillion characters, giving them all equal screen time starts to get difficult. And there's so many storylines in place and so many emotional areas to touch upon that Eleven sort of became a supporting character for this finale. So I totally agree. So then his final section, the ugly. The melting building scene. While it gave the married couples, both of them, a chance to do some good acting, the rest of it was just terrible. Where were all the other monsters in the final battle scene? I totally agree. Should there not have been some demogorgons in that final scene?
You would think, right?
Yeah.
Unless Will killed all of them.
I don't know. Anyway, I agree with that one. Speaking of which, having the Mind Flayer just be a huge monster with no actual, quote, brain power was total waste. I was hoping it would be a nod to the other great beast of 80s films, that being the Beast from Krull, a fantastic film. He continues on and says, and there is no possible way the army would have let them go at the end. Hop and Eleven had killed a lot of soldiers, and the rest of them know the abuses of the women that was happening, so they would have all been, quote, disappeared. It was very jarring to go from the end of that scene to the graduation with no explanation of what happened. Now, having said all of that, I was entertained. And I have to agree, like, I think across the board, most of the feedback I've seen from people was I was entertained, but I have a lot of problems with it. So
yeah, that was kind of my take. I enjoyed it, but it certainly, like I said, season 1 was the ultimate for me, and all the other seasons were kind of, I enjoyed them, but not nearly as good.
Yeah, agreed. He continues on and says, the story was just the worst of all the seasons. Kind of like Lost, season 5. How dare you? Just flailing around for some kind of resolution, and what they came up with totally fails to stick the landing. As for if Eleven and Kali come up with some elaborate plan to have her escape and go chasing waterfalls, I don't buy it. A fun speculation, but Kali was dead at that point, and I don't think her powers could work over that great a distance.
Was she dead?
I don't know. See, that's the thing, and we speculated a lot about that. I think you can go either. I really think you can go either way on that. It's really how that scene hit you. I understand not agreeing with it, and I understand the other side of it as well. So I get it. I totally get it.
Well, I mean, and I'm kind of in agreement with Rick there that, I didn't buy it either. I mean, I think that Kali was still around to set it up, but I think all of the 11 stuff was in Mike's head was all Kali. I don't think it was her because, like we talked about. But yeah. Again, that's kind of the cool part about it. It's ambiguous enough that, there's a little piece of something in there for every viewpoint to grab hold of and say, see, this proves that I'm right. And it's like,
Yeah, I think there's evidence for all bunch of different kind of theories, and I think whatever ending feels right to you is the one that it's the one that you see, represented. It doesn't necessarily mean, another person is right or wrong. I understand how you can see different things with this one, so I totally get it. I felt differently about it, but that's just how it hit me, and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
He finishes off by saying, I could go on more, but I will stop here. I enjoyed listening to your takes on the episodes. Well, thank you, Rick.
That's
we
really
appreciate
cool.
That. And
that's awesome.
And again, apologies that this didn't happen in conjunction with the actual Stranger Things episodes. 1,000 apologies, but here we are giving the feedback nonetheless. So hopefully others will hear this and they either agree or disagree, and that's all we can do.
Or maybe they'll hear that and decide they need to go and listen to those episodes covering Stranger Things if they had not done that.
Perhaps you're just here to hear our amazing coverage of The Mist. Who knows?
We don't know.
So thanks again for writing in, Rick. And I promise to be more on top of it next time you write in. So thanks again, and thanks for listening to our coverage of Stranger Things.
And don't worry, Rick. I will make sure she toes the line here. Trust me. This will not happen again, or it'll be bad for Miss Diana. So
yeah. So thanks again, Rick. Thanks for
that's really cool, man. Thanks for writing in. All right, so moving along onto The Mist, we got a couple pieces of feedback, which is pretty cool. I know sometimes with the movies it's a little dicey, but we did, and we got one from one of our old pals, Karen. Don't call me Lauren Cohen. That's pretty cool that she wrote in, and this came in via the Facebook, and I love it. It's short and to the point. But again, expresses an opinion that I back in 2007, a lot of people had, which is, she simply says, the end was upsetting.
Tell me how you feel.
Yes,
and
really.
Don't hold back.
No, don't sugarcoat it. Come on right out. We can take it. Yeah.
Yes.
And like I said, there was this a large chunk of the movie going audience in 2007 went to see, everyone went to see this movie because Frank Darabont had done Shawshank Redemption. He'd done Green Mile. So he had done a lot of Stephen King stuff, and he'd done it really well. Here's another Stephen King thing. Oh my God, this is going to be really great. It's The Mist. And then they came out of this movie going, oh my God, I hate that movie because of the ending. It's a real, one of those kind of flashpoint sequences or moments where you either like it or you don't. I don't think there were too many people that came out and went, yeah, the ending was okay. You know what I mean? It's like you felt one way or the other, and a lot of people were like, yeah, their overall review of The Mist would be, I didn't like it, and you ask why, the ending was terrible in their view. So yeah.
But thanks for writing in, Karen. We always appreciate getting your opinion on anything, really.
I know. And hopefully, in the near future here, when we get back to Dead City and Daryl Dixon, we will get to enjoy more of Karen's feedback.
We miss it. Thank you.
We really do.
Next up, we did hear from friend of the podcast, Joe Griffin.
Hello, Joe.
Hello, Joe. Joe sent in his thoughts via the Facebook, and it's less about the movie and more about a little extra detail. If you all weren't aware, he writes in and says, there is a black and white version of it on the DVD/Blu-ray. Now, kids, if you're listening, a DVD is where they put the movie on this separate sort of entity. It's an actual disc, and you play it on your TV on command. You don't have to download anything. You don't need an internet connection either. You can just press play.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He says, if you wind up watching it more than once in preparation for recording, check out that version as well as the color. It's a very cool experience. Have you watched that black and white version?
Yes, I have, and it's very cool. And again, it's weird movie trivia. That's how Darabont wanted to release the movie initially, and he was planning to do it as a black and white film, and the studio said absolutely not.
Of course.
Really, like the last major black and white release, probably Young Frankenstein. Mel Brooks, from the mid 1970s. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, there obviously have been some smaller, more independent films that have come out that are black and white, but I mean, like a major studio release just doesn't happen. The major studios are convinced that the vast majority of people won't go see a black and white movie. That they'll be like, oh, I don't want, I want color, whatever. And so they absolutely refused. And so the kind of the caveat that Darabont got was they were allowed to make a black and white version of the movie for, release in the secondary market. But it's not quite the same because he was planning to shoot it like a black and white movie and really emphasize shadow and what you can play with the lighting of a black and white film. And ultimately what they did is they shot it as a color movie, and then they just drained all the color out, in a post process to make it look black and white. So it's black and white, but it's not like like a true noir film from the 50s when they were really using the shadow and color possibilities with black and white. But it's still cool. And if you can find one of the DVDs or the Blu-rays that has it, because there are several versions of this movie on disc that do not include it, but like the bigger packages that have a lot of extras will tend to have it.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth a look. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for writing in, Joe. It was hearing from you.
Yeah.
Great perspective. Thank you. Now, moving on. Next up on the podcast, we were going to do a sort of surprise reveal of what our next movie coverage will be. And it's a movie that I really think we've been wanting to cover for a little while. We sort of put it off because I said I wanted to read the book again before we covered it. But I'm really thinking that after a movie with such a bleak ending like The Mist, I really think that we should just go ahead and cover this next week. So the uplifting tale of The Road will be next. I can't even do it with a straight face. So The Road, fantastic film, Viggo Mortensen. If you've not seen it, so good. It is... I could safely say it's on the bleak side. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yes, it's definitely a bleak little movie. No doubt about it. Yes.
Yeah, there's a great little small part played by Charlize Theron as well. It's a really, really fantastic movie. I love the book like crazy. It's fantastic. It's a oh my God, I can't even think of his name. It'll come to me. And it is for free, right? Cormac McCarthy. There you go.
Yes, it's Cormac McCarthy.
Who also wrote No Country for Old Men.
Yes,
and,
he did.
A slew of others. It is free on Amazon Prime right now. So if you have never seen The Road, mark it as something to watch this week. Make sure to watch it. And we'll throw up some social media to remind you to watch it. But yeah, it's available right now on Prime. And most people have Prime. But I'm sure if you search around, there might be some free locations as well. I could have sworn I saw on IMDb there was a couple of free locations if you're not a Prime person. So take a look, try and find that, and we look forward to getting some feedback next week. Like I said, the uplifting apocalyptic tale.
Super. It's super cheery, bright, sunny. Oh, yeah, it's so great. Interestingly enough, it came out in like 2009, which is right around the Mist time. I mean, it's in that same kind of area, So, it'd be interesting to see this particular take on a really, really happy subject. So.
Yes, absolutely. So that'll be next week, folks. And I just wanted to point out, I've been seeing a lot of posts on some of the horror sites and like the Shudder and things like that there's a lot of really great horror and / scary style movies, suspenseful movies that are coming out in the next few months, but just May alone has a whole bunch of them. And I know for myself, I'm really, really excited to see, there's an A24 movie called Backrooms that's coming out that I am dying to see that, but there's a few others. There's one called Hokum, Andrew Scott is in, Passenger, and a few others, but look up your listings of stuff coming out soon. There's a lot of horror / scary / suspenseful style films coming out. The year is going to be filled with some really good content, and everything really kicks off starting in May. So look at your movie theater listings and get ready for some good stuff in the theaters.
Oh yeah, I mean,
sure.
Yeah, you forgot the big one starting right on May 1st. Devil Wears Prada Part 2.
Oh, God,
that first movie scared the hell out of me. So yeah,
I know.
But yeah, out of all of them, Hokum is the one that I'm excited about. I've heard some people who have seen it on the festival circuit last year and have been talking about it ever since. And it's supposed to be really a fun, well-made horror movie. So I'm very excited for that one.
And I like Adam Scott, and he's been getting a lot of
Severance.
Yeah, because of Severance. So it's hopefully that'll put some more eyes on that film that maybe would have passed by it, because he's got quite the fan base because of Severance now. So that'd be great to see. One good thing that I think will hopefully come out of the whole Amy Madigan Oscar win is I really hope that it, in moments like this, like Andrew Scott being in Hokum, it'd be great to see folks that might otherwise have not done a genre movie decide to roll the dice on something based on, like you said, a fun script or something like that, and just, make a great movie that people are going to enjoy. So here's hoping, right?
Here's hoping.
Yeah. And one final thing, I'd mentioned it last week, and I'm going to throw it out there again. Just curious if folks are interested in us covering the next Duffer Brothers series is called The Burrows. It's going to be in May on Netflix. I'll put some more stuff out on social media. If you haven't seen anything about it, Alfred Molina and Gina Davis, Alfred Woodard. It looks really, really interesting. Got more of like a science fiction-y suspenseful sort of thing, all is not right within the neighborhood kind of thing, but it looks really interesting, and if you folks are interested in us covering it, we would certainly be interested in doing that for you. So just let us know either way. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, please let us know. And if you have any suggestions for anything else too, please drop it in there, because we're kind of in that gray area, people, where we don't really know when some of the things we want to cover are coming back, and so we're kind of feeling our way through what can we do. So
earlier in the year, our instinct was like, oh, we gotta, something's gonna be during the summer, but there's just no word from AMC when we're gonna see Dead City or Daryl Dixon. So as soon as we know, we'll schedule it in there. But yeah.
And also, like, Dune Prophecy season 2 is supposedly coming out at some point this year, but we don't know when. And so I mean, there's several things that we're really excited and want to cover. We just kind of don't know when that's going to be. So
yeah. But once we know, we will let you know. And until then, we're gonna put in all of this interesting content. We've got a long list of things that we've been wanting to cover. Some great horror, some great science fiction, apocalyptic tales that we think you guys will really be interested in. So we'll have plenty of things to talk about starting next week. We're going to continue on with the uplifting apocalyptic tale of the road. Like we mentioned. So that's going to do it for us this week. We look forward to chatting with you folks again next week. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
Don't forget to always aim for the head.
As Ollie did, because as you know, those body shots just don't work.
To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
And Sunday was so foggy out here, and I was like, this is a harbinger.
Oh no, we gotta find another movie.